Could you guys hear me? Could you hear me coughing? Because I just realized that I was like coughing up a lung and I was not muted. So
I didn't hear anything,
excellent.
But I hope,
hi, everybody.
I hope the audience did. Welcome to the show. Hi. Are you the boy or am I the boy today? I don't know which one of us is supposed to be driving.
I don't know. Nobody's driving this thing. We're just here. We're hanging out. It's a holiday weekend. I wasn't even supposed to be on here. I'm Jimmy today, so I can technically just fuck around and do whatever I want. Just kidding.
I think that's always true.
I'm just sick enough that I had to not go to all the festivities I had planned this weekend, which is a bummer. However, nobody can catch a cold through a screen, as far as I know. So I get to hang out with all of you guys, and I'm excited to talk to some theists. It is Sunday, December 29th. I am Promise. We are like gentle parenting our way through my name change. So it still says /Eve, but I am in fact the same person.
Love that.
And this is Forrest, who, I'm going the wrong way. This is Forrest over here. And he's some guy here on the line that I'm sure none of you know anything about at all. I just want to say that I know that you're not, well, I don't know. Maybe you are. Do you know the latest mug update? We should talk about the mugs for a second.
I didn't actually. I have not been paying attention.
Okay, well, I'm not competitive at all or anything, but I am like desperate to know the current count because I've been winning. But I feel like you're up there. And
I'm checking right now. Linemerch.com, I believe, and here's the mug brawl.
Yeah, I won't show you guys on your end. I can see. So Forrest, you're at 45.
All right.
Promise, you are at 85, and I'm close behind on second with 68.
Yes, look at us, guys.
Alyssa is, actually just a little above Forrest at 47. So it's Promise, me, Alyssa, then Forrest.
Well, I love this. I think it's so fun. If you guys don't know about the mug brawl that we have, it's a way for us to raise more support for the channel. Jimmy calls it kind of like our little Christmas bonus as well, because we do profit sharing here. And we have all of our different mugs. I'm assuming somebody's going to put the link in the chat or something like that, so you guys can go check out everyone's mugs. There's some really fun ones on there. Forrest is honestly really amazing. It's a great mug. So, and since he's not close to beating me, I'm going to say you should go check out Forrest mug. So we have those up there. Are you down to just get straight to some calls?
I'm super down. I'm doing 50 things at this moment, but I am super down to jump right in because we've got 2 atheists and 1 something on the line. Mm-hmm. It says practitioner. It seems to be something about some sort of supernatural belief. And I want to open up more lines for theists. I want to have more theists call in, or people who are science deniers of any stripe. What's that?
Yeah, can you give a shout out to some of you were telling me there's some people that should absolutely call in tonight.
Oh, yeah, bro. I got an email from somebody who's telling me that I don't understand Christianity. That person said they were going to call in. I had some person come to my Instagram to tell me that I should listen to some intelligent design advocates like Stephen Meyer and James Tour and stuff. That person said that they would probably call in, so hoping for that. But the most exciting thing is the fucking FBI guy came back after like weeks of silence, finally showed back up, is on my Instagram right now. If anybody would like to encourage this person to call in, just head over to my Instagram. They just commented like a couple hours ago. Head down to the post. Flip, dude. It's a little in there. Let me see how far in it is. It's a post of me and Erika making weird faces. That's the post that it's on. And it's on, it shows the line here. and you've got a picture of myself and a picture of Erika making strange faces. It's from what I posted on September 17th. So scroll all the way back to September 17th. Why is he commenting on that post? No idea. But that's where it is. And sort by most recent. And you've got this guy up there saying Merry Christmas using not even my current name, just an old last name and my real middle name. So that is my full old last name. And I invited the person to call in, and here we are again saying that I won't answer his questions and all this stuff, and continuing to try to dox me online. So I hope that guy calls. Anybody wants to encourage him to call, feel free to. I'm not doxing this person. They are making public comments on a public platform, trying to share my personal details, which, what the fuck ever, right? So hopefully that guy calls in. We'll see what happens. Chances are he won't. He's just going to ask everybody to ask me questions. That's what happens a lot of the time. I don't know. But I really, really hope we get some good calls from FBI guy, from the two people who sent me, messages saying that they can explain Christianity for me better. Like, those are the people that I would love to hear from the most. But anybody else, I see we've already had to mute a couple of people in chat for talking about, Christ is King and whatnot. You guys should call in as well. The number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description to call in that way. Promise and I are nice. We are as nice as the callers allow us to be. Calls with us are as pleasant as the callers allow. And so, like, this is your chance. If you have something interesting to say, if you want to talk about this stuff, that's an amazing super chat, Lenny. Thank you very much. This is the best possible way for you to do these things, get your ideas out there, to have your opinions heard, and to have pleasant, honest conversations about what you believe and why you think we should believe it too. But with that, I'm down to start jumping right in. I especially, we've got probably going to be a longer show tonight, so I'm okay with jumping between the three that we have on the line right now.
I was going to ask. Yeah. Well, the first one on there, I don't know if you see the call notes. So I was for once at home and actually able to listen to the entire call, the Sunday show with Matt and Owen. And somebody called in and specifically was talking about, I'll let Jonah talk, but I wanted him to call back because I actually really feel like you'll have some helpful things to say. I know you've talked about nihilism and all of that on here before. I don't want to make you go through the whole thing, but I think it still is worth having a quick chat. And Jonah waited on hold for a long time for the other show to be on there. And so I appreciate him being willing to call back again and talk to even more of us hosts. I just think it would help round out the conversation a little bit more. So if you're down.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I'm down. Let's start with atheist calls. Let's just smash
let's
the
get
system.
all backwards.
Totally different.
All right, let's talk to Jonah. Hey, Jonah, you're talking to Promise and Forrest. Thanks so much for calling back.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hi. Forrest, first off, I have to say I'm a big fan of your work. I've watched your Reactoria series, most of it.
I'm so sorry.
I'm a big fan of your work. I know. I enjoy it so much. It's a guilty
I appreciate your bad taste.
And I appreciate yours, sir. Promise I've never seen anything from you other than I'll be online a couple times, so I'm apologize if you have content about this.
That's even better.
I didn't even know you had stuff discussing nihilism, honestly, but from earlier in the show, yes, I talked to Matt and Owen about it, and I looked for I think I used the wrong search term, but I was looking for hope. And I just typed atheist hope or Matt Dillahunty hope or things like that as a general search term.
Fuck, yeah.
And
bad luck.
Yeah, so I was trying to find. Right, we certainly don't. And so as a person who cares deeply about my family and my friends, I worry often about pulling back the curtain of reality and saying, hey, there's nothing there. We don't know no one's driving the ship, but the world is.
Yeah.
My life is great. I'm not going to say it's not. It is. I have a good life. I have 5 kids. I love them to pieces. My life is fine. But I worry about upcoming wars and all sorts of craziness that's happening. Obviously the country's crazy. I listened to too much of what's his name last week tonight. I love John Oliver and things like that. But when I when I pull back the curtain and I'm like, there's nothing there. like what do I give my Christian friends in exchange for their hope? Like if I offering them blue pill or red pill, and I'm waking them up from the matrix, like what is on the other side of that I can offer them that's anywhere close to hope that they have in the eternal life, which I admit is a sweet gig, even if I don't believe in it. I think eternal life is awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm okay with. I believe it's probably like a void, since that's where I'm from, is a void, and probably we'll go back into a void of some type, but. Yeah, I'm just curious. Real quick before you answer me, can you answer me? What alternative reality would you like to live in? If you could choose one alternative reality of any fan base, what would you like to live in?
There's a lot going on at the beginning.
Mine is Star Trek, by the way. Star Trek is mine away.
Okay, you're Star Trek. I mean, if I have to pick like right off the top of my head, I'm going with Barbie Land. Because I just feel like things would fare a lot better for me in life. It's kind of like the opposite of, because I was going to say Lord of the Rings, and then I was just like, I really, like, it's already a struggle now to do things that I do as a woman. Not a struggle for me, it's a struggle for other people to accept it. But, like, I don't want to have to be out, like, on a battlefield with an orc and be like, I am no man, I'm a woman. Like, that's cool to watch. But I'd really just like to be Barbie and be, like, shocked by the behavior of the rest of the world. So that's my answer for that.
I'm assuming you're not talking about the new Barbie movie. Is that not that reality though, right?
Yeah, no. That one, the good one, the one on there where like Barbies run the world, where everything is like the opposite of a patriarchy. Basically, it's like a Barbie matriarchy. It's like a
Barbie-archy?
I don't know, Barbie-archy.
Barbie-archy sounds good. Yeah. It's funny. I also immediately went to Lord of the Rings, and then I thought about it for 1 second, and I was like, yeah, but actually a world with no electricity or medicine, and you just have to hope a wizard comes by. You know what I mean? I don't know about that. That doesn't sound a lot of fun. And then I was like, okay, well then Firefly, because that's like advanced and futuristic, and there's like these cool, like this whole dichotomy of like good and evil and all this stuff. And I realized I'm just listing my favorite things. That's all it actually is. I'm not. The things that make those stories compelling is the fact that they would be a shitty place to live. I wouldn't want to live there because then you have the whole problem with the governments and all the things. So like, I don't know, bro. It's very difficult to say. If I had to pick a thing, it would be the world of Chameleon Twist 2, the video game on N64. Which is just madness.
I don't think I've ever played
it. It's a great game if you like insanity and child's games. But it is absolute lunacy at every turn, and you can do a handstand with your tongue, and that's just what's coming to me right now. I have a hard time with these kinds of things because I really like reality, so it's difficult.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah. So to talk about what you're talking about there is to say this alternative hope against Christianity. I would just say that first of all, the hope of Christianity sucks. It's not really hope at all. It is at the absolute best case scenario of an eternal lobotomization, living in this theme park in the sky where you are mindlessly worshiping this deity and somehow not thinking about the endless suffering here on this planet. That sounds crazy to me. I wouldn't want to live in such a thing. But the hope for the atheist or for the nihilist is the chance to change reality in the way that you see fit, within the laws of nature and the laws of physics. But like the chance to make things better, the chance to choose your own destiny, the chance to make everybody else happy, the chance to see a better future, a brighter world tomorrow. The chance to grow and change and develop and like that all of that is freedom and choice and life and liberty, and all the best parts of existence come from that separation from any kind of purpose, meaning, determination. That's where things get the most beautiful and the scariest. But that's, I think, so much better. It's like the how do you say it? It's like a beauty of pick your favorite type of plant, especially a poisonous one. Have you ever seen foxglove flowers? They're fucking lovely, and they will make your heart explode. And so like just you see the beauty of this world around us and the chance that you have to change it and to do whatever you want and to make things as great or as terrible as you like, and to be a good person and to practice being good every single day and to not have anybody pulling the reins. And like that is the only way that I think any sane person well, I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. That's the only way that I would ever want to live.
Right.
I said any sane person. I realize that a lot of people might value comfort a lot more than I do and might be a little bit more frightened than I am. And that's no shame to them. And I shouldn't disparage that. But like, just the hope of Christianity isn't hope at all. The hope of Christianity is the hope to be a happy slave. And the hope of nihilism is the hope to make the world a better place and to make yourself feel some sort of meaning before you poof out of existence. And I think that's way, way, way cooler.
But right on the money with all of that. I think another thing to make sure we differentiate between, because I fully agree with everything Forrest is saying, and that's how I practice my life, is, this subjective meaning, which is so much more fun and exciting than trying to hear from, I grew up in this charismatic world where you even have to hear from God about what it is he specifically wants you to do. And it's like the pressure of that is insane. But I think what's important to also recognize is it is not your responsibility to bring truth or expose lies to your family. You get to decide. That's another part of this amazing worldview, is that it is up to you to decide whether you think, because maybe that is going to ultimately be more harmful. If you have a family member who's dying of cancer and faith has been the most important thing that's ever happened to them, and it is going to wreck their world, then I don't think that it's going to do anybody any service for you to go sit there on their deathbed and say, just so you know, everything you believe is a lie, and here's why. Like, that's not cool. I can say that. It is very different what we do here on this show, challenging people's beliefs that choose to call in or choose to watch the show, versus how I am when I go interact with my religious family members or my religious friends. I am not sitting there like looking for ways to burst their bubbles. Now, do I stay my authentic self? Yes. And that looks different from relationship to relationship as well, as far as what I feel comfortable with. But I think another part of leaving religion for me was learning that I'm not responsible for saving people anymore. I felt that pressure before. I felt like I had to let them all know what I knew and prove to them why it's true, as far as like when I was a Christian. That's not something I have to do anymore. Do I think there's value in those conversations? Yes, of course. And when presented those opportunities, I do like to have those conversations and express like why I don't believe anymore, and maybe even poke some holes in some of their beliefs if they're offering that up freely in a conversation for me to do. But I don't know if that makes sense to you. I think, finding what flavor of nihilism works for you is a topic that's really important and cool, but then also not feeling the pressure to push that on your family is another thing as well. Does that make sense?
No, it certainly does. And as a Christian, I was very evangelical, very pushy. I go in for many years of my life. And so it feels in certain ways like I should be doing the same thing, but in the opposite direction as an unapologist or something like that. But I do greatly actually value what you said, in that I don't do that with my parents. In fact, we don't talk about religion with me and my parents, who are still very much religious people. And it was actually my dad that put a lot of the seeds of those doubt in me, because he would have, when we would have these frank conversations where you drop the mask and you just have the frank conversations, he would let slip the things that he'd like, because he's always anxious about, if he's not saved or this or that. But yeah, I always feel the need to counter apologize, so to speak, and to, especially when religion gets brought up. But I know it's such a sensitive topic for so many people. So I was like, well, maybe there's a tactic I'm missing, something that I can give them, as opposed to like, hey, I'm just going to take away your hope. And the world that we live in has a bunch of injustice and it sucks, and you just got to deal with it. But I guess coming to terms with that is the therapy that I need as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just giving yourself permission to like let go of that for a bit is great. And also, you know, there is part of what I was taught that I do appreciate, which is kind of like let your fruit speak for itself, and let yourself be an example in the way that you live your life. If you found something that's working for you and it is making your life better, then people will see that and they're going to ask questions about it. And so I think focusing on that, focusing on what you believe, what you don't believe, what brings you meaning and purpose in life. And then you can easily offer up, you don't have to sit there and say like, hey, what you guys believe is a lie. You can just be like, yeah, I don't believe any of that anymore. If you want to know why, you're welcome to ask me. This is what I do believe, and this is where I find joy and meaning in life. You know, this is like not really the best comparison, but kind of a little bit of a metaphor of that, or even an example of it is, for example, I spent Christmas with my family. They are Christian, very, very, very Christian. They talk about we're celebrating Jesus's birthday, you know, they're in tears talking about it, all the things. And but a couple of days before that, I asked if we could take a moment to acknowledge winter solstice and talk about what that means to me, and a little tradition that I've come up with that I want to practice on winter solstice every year. And they loved it. We had this fun little like thing we did with oranges and cloves, and it's like a whole thing that I won't explain, but it was like a little moment of tradition that I got to bring, and I didn't have to criticize what they do. I didn't have to say like, hey, this is all a lie. I was just able to say like, here's my little piece of meaning in all of this. So I think things like that can come up, and that can be a much healthier way where you get to feel like you're being yourself, like you have something to offer without feeling the burden of fixing the web they have woven by practicing what us as atheists believe is not true at all.
I appreciate that. Yes, I agree 100%. Thank you so much. I also appreciated your pushing in the morality of if someone's on their deathbed, not pulling that rug out from under them might not be the best solution as well. That's something I struggle with, because I have people I interact with, you know, at my job that are in between versions of faith, and some of them I feel like if I pulled the rug out from under them, that they would just, you know, it would become chaos. And so it's, you know, I appreciate the I guess the morality of knowing about when to push and making those conversations known that, hey, yeah, you can talk with me about it, but you have to ask me about it. Not like I'm going to shove a track down your throat and chick-chack and all that. But either way, I really appreciate that. Forrest, I'll look for your video on nihilism. You said, is it just for nihilism?
I don't have a video on nihilism. I mean, not really.
Oh, you don't?
Anyway.
Forrest has, I think a couple episodes back, somebody in the chat is going to know, or somebody in the comments later. But I know you had like, at least I was like, wow, this is so impactful and meaningful and great to hear. Forrest had like this beautiful monologue in a call that we had with somebody a few weeks ago. I'll try to find it and put it in the comment section later.
Some poor bastard that watches this show too much will find it for us. Yeah, no, it
was really good. It's
there's a lot there. Well, thank you so much. That really is very kind of you to say.
I appreciate both of your feedbacks, and I think that will help. You know, Matt is very good about being blunt with the truth, and I need that from someone like him. I know we definitely would not get along in any conversation, but he's good at hitting you with the truth, and I appreciate that, honestly. So I appreciate both of you taking a more gentler approach and kind of easing me into it a little bit easier than him. So even though I appreciate everything Matt does, I love Matt. But thank you both for taking the time to answer my call, and good luck.
Thanks so much,
Jonah. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think
I love the idea.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, you go ahead. No, you go first.
I was just gonna say, Matt was really pushing back on the phrase of like calling it hope when really what they have are lies, which I fully agree with. I just thought that we had, because I don't want to act like we had some answers that Matt didn't. I just think there's different. We were able to round it out. I think he addressed part of what needed to be addressed, and then I thought there was some other stuff that we could get into as well. So, anyways, what were you about?
I love that. I was just saying, I love the idea of like sharing like secular or just like different traditions around like holiday times. That's awesome. I recently introduced my wife and niece to Pfeffernusse, and nobody likes it but me. Pfeffernusse are these awesome little, they're Christmas cookies. They're like in Germanic tradition. So my dad was from Austria. And so like I grew up with a lot of like the Christmas treats were like spiced, like not like hot, but like a lot of cloves and a lot of licorice and a lot of like star anise and like all these different like flavors that were traditionally something you say for a special occasion. And so pfeffernusse are these little, it's PFFERNUSSE, I think. It's very weird, the spelling. But they're these just dope little white cookies that are orange on the inside, and they just taste like licorice and love and holiday happy. It's awesome. And nobody likes them except for myself, and like anybody should check them out. It's see, people in the chat get it.
They're
Hell yeah.
It sounds like something my Finnish husband who lived in Germany would really like. So it's all in that world together. Which, by the way, sorry, and then we'll get to back to the calls because I see a very interesting theist caller that I think is somebody that emailed you.
We are loaded up.
I saw that you're going for Christmas next year to the Christmas markets in Austria and Germany?
Yes, better than that. Not just going to for Christmas. I'm going for Thanksgiving. So over Thanksgiving, I will be going from we'll be going from Munich down to Salzburg, over to Austria, over to Vienna. Pardon me. So we're going Munich, Germany, Salzburg, Austria, Vienna, Austria, and we'll be there for about 8 days. And we're gonna hit up all sorts of castles and cathedrals and cool stuff, and also visiting all these like Christmas markets along the way.
I love it.
There's still, I think, 15 spots left on that trip.
I want to go.
And
if
anybody
want to go.
is around the area, if you're already living there, the itinerary is posted on the website. And I'm not going to be upset if you show up. Don't spend, the thing is like $3,000 for the whole trip package. Don't spend the money to go to your backyard. Just fucking show up and find me. But like, anybody else who's in other places around the world that wants to come along, it's like $3,000 for the whole package. And we have like a tour guide that's going to show us around. Is pretty dope. And like I said, I'm from Austria, but I've never actually been. But I'm a dual citizen. I have an Austrian citizenship, and I've always wanted to go check it out. It's wild.
I was just there for the first time this summer. It's gorgeous. I imagine the Christmas markets are really cool. I haven't gotten to see that, so
my dad came from a little town called Bad Gastein, and I've always wanted to go check that out. It's going to be about a 90-minute drive away from Salzburg, and so like I'm seeing if I can find a way to like wiggle down there. Maybe I stay a day late or go a day early or something like that. But it's going to be tight, and I figured this Thanksgiving is so fucking hard, and this next one's going to be the first Thanksgiving of the next Trump dynasty, and like, man, I don't want to walk on political eggshells for Thanksgiving. I want to go like just feel the cold breeze on my face and sip some spiced wine and eat 1,000 pfeffernusse and buy a weird little wooden trinket to bring home to share with friends and family at home. That's what I want to do. I'm going to pack an extra suitcase for bullshit that I'm going to buy in Austria and bring back here. And I'm going to do Christmas for Thanksgiving. And if anybody wants to join me, you're welcome to. The link is just go to valkailabs.com/links, and it does a big button that says go on adventure with me or something like that. It'll be great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, dude.
I love that.
I love that.
Can't wait to hear all about it. And maybe if I happen to be in Austria, I'm going to come say hi.
Hell yeah. I would love that.
Shall we talk to Dr. Trevor? Is this who? I don't want to pronounce the last name incorrectly, but
yeah, I don't know if it's Steinke or what, but we'll talk to Dr. Trevor, and hopefully he'll be able to tell us what's going on. But yeah, this is someone who emailed me last night and said that I had some fundamental misunderstandings about Christianity and was going to set me straight on some stuff. I'm excited about it. Dr. Trevor, you are on the line with Forrest and Promise. How are you doing today?
Yes, hello. Forrest, Promise. How are you both?
Doing well.
I'm fantastic.
How are you?
That's great. It is Steinke. You got it right.
Awesome.
A lot of people talk to me about that. Yeah. So I just, I was scrolling on Instagram as you do, and I saw a clip of you. Yes, of course. I saw a clip of you talking to appear to be a young man. Couldn't say for sure. And you made an analogy about how if you were to burn your wife if she didn't love you anymore, then you wouldn't really love her in the first place, right?
That's a very popular.
I think that I think that's such an interesting analogy. And the issue I have with it is it has this perception of hell that may not be consistent with what actually the Bible says. Now, obviously, the Bible says a lot of things, and I'm sure you have a whole list of contradictions or this or that or the other thing between what the Bible says and doesn't say. Right.
But that's not really the point of this.
What the Bible, no, of course not. If you look at what the Bible really says about,
can I interject really quickly? I'm sorry, I don't mean to, like, it's just because it's a show and I just want to save a little bit of time. Like, we get like Christian callers all the time that tell us that hell is absolutely a place of fire and brimstone and burning and gnashing of teeth and all these, and a lake of fire and all this stuff. And we also get plenty of Christian callers that say that actually hell is just separation from God, that hell is just distance, hell is something else.
Or that they don't believe in it at all.
Yes, that hell actually doesn't exist. It's just the void, or that it isn't real in any case. It's like this, we've heard a variety of different claims about what the Bible does and doesn't say about hell, and what different Christian denominations or Christian individuals do or don't believe about hell. My argument was pretty extreme in that particular clip because the one person I was talking to particularly was talking about the fire and brimstone type. But just to save you the time of explaining your particular interpretation of your preferred version of the Bible, any version of hell at all, any punishment whatsoever for not believing in or not loving this God is immoral. And so, like, you can pick whatever you like. If you want to summarize it, I'll let you. I'm not going to, completely be a jerk and just not speak. Like, I just want to let you know, making the argument that hell is different than what I think it is isn't going to get you out of the trap of the fact that this God is still a dick for having a hell.
Sure. So just to summarize it, boil it down, keep it quick.
Sure.
The hell I was referring to is merely the separation from God. And you said it was punishment, right? But I'd like to propose a different perspective, right?
Sure.
If you were living a life which is potentially deserving of hell, right? If you're living a life of immoral, not against the Bible codes, then the separation from God is what you're after. It's what you'd want. It's not necessarily a punishment, because you wouldn't want a life with God if you didn't live by his rules, if you didn't live by his commandments. Why would you want to live in a heaven with God if you lived a life on earth that was not consistent with that?
So then everyone should be fine with wherever they end up, right? Like, everyone's going to be happy with wherever we end up? Well, great. But
yes, at the end of the day, yes. But
then why should I change my beliefs? Why should I believe in a God?
Well, because there's levels of happiness, right? You can be in the separation from God and you cannot live by his commandments, and you may be content with it, right? Because that's how you lived. But there are greater experiences. There are greater blessings. There are greater joys when you go to that level of God, which where you're with God, right?
Well, then can you offer your
look at this?
It says here that you have evidence for a God. So I'd be mostly interested to hear then if you think that Forrest and I would be happier, that there's another level of happiness that we wouldn't achieve if we go to hell, then I'd be interested in hearing whatever convincing evidence you have for this God so that we can be happier in the afterlife.
Sure. So I'm sorry, I'm not fully understanding your point here, but what I'm looking at is less so evidence for God. I can get to that later, but more so when you do something nice for somebody, when you show an act of service, does it not make you feel good? Does it not, swell your heart with joy, right? So
here's the problem. I don't think that I don't think either Forrest and I care at all what you think about the afterlife, or if you think hell is like this or hell is like that, or if heaven is like this. Right. So the problem is we would have to be convinced that those things exist at all for us to, like, if you're taking all this time to tell us what you really think it is just so we can tell you our opinion, because you could call and say, I think hell is an ice cream shop. And I'd be like, awesome, great. I want to go there. We're in agreement. Next. But what I really care about, that's it. But so that's not so interesting. That clip that you saw from Forrest was really relevant to the call and where it was, what was happening there. I'm much more interested in knowing, why should I believe that your version or anyone's version of an afterlife exists, and specifically this God that you believe in? I don't want to speak for you, Forrest, but
okay.
No, I think that's a good point, because I would be very happy to talk about like which flavor of hell sounds the coolest, but like whether or not it exists is definitely a good place to start, and then whether or not this God exists is definitely a good thing to talk about, because like I said, there is no version of hell as a punishment that is acceptable. Period. If this hell really is just separation from this God, then I want to know what that entails, because there's a lot of Christian callers we've talked to. There's over 40,000 denominations of Christianity. And if you ask 3 Christians what anything in Christianity is, you get 5 answers, because it's a very personalized belief system. So like if you tell me that there's a separation, I still don't get really what that means, because I have talked to Christians on this show that say that separation is anguish. And I have talked to other ones that say that separation is nothing, and it's totally up to you. It's no different than how I'm living at this moment, similar to what it sounds like you're saying right now. So just would much rather talk about whether or not this God actually exists, whether or not this hell actually exists, and then what kind of God it is, what kind of hell it is, and we can kind of go from there.
Great. All right. So then I'm interested to hear your take on the origin of life, right? Because you're a scientist, right?
Hold on.
I'm sure you've done extensive research on.
Why?
Wait, I thought that you had evidence for us of a God. We just asked you a question, and now you just greeted us with a question.
I never said I had evidence. When I talked to the person on the phone earlier, I said I had evidence against his point.
No, okay, so maybe, I don't know who said this, but like on the call screen in front of me, the note in the call screen is "can prove the existence of God." That's all that's written. Are you saying you didn't write this?
I did not write that. That was a misinterpretation of what I had said.
Okay, can I ask it this way? Do you think you have a good reason to believe that a God exists?
I do, yes.
Okay, cool. We would love to hear
We'll start there.
Okay, sure. So when I look back at the timeline, right, and you go back to the Big Bang, and you go back all of that time, I'm wondering where it all began. Because when you can talk about the Big Bang, and you can talk about the formation of the universe and all those years in between, but there has to be something outside of that universe that is capable of putting it all in motion in the first place, right? There's a great analogy I like to reference.
I don't agree with that.
Here's a great analogy, right? You have a town of people, and they all loan money to each other, right? The money has to come from outside the town in the first place, or else they can't start loaning money to each other. If you go back to the Big Bang, you can always say, well, there's something before that, right? There's always going to be something older. So then the explanation, there has to be some scientific explanation. There has to be a necessity of some entity. Maybe there's a sciencey way of explaining it that put that all in motion in the first place, right?
So this is just kind of a very fancy form of the Kalam cosmological argument, which sucks. And so like here's the major issue with this.
Tell me why.
That ignorant. I'm doing that at this moment. Ignorance isn't evidence. So just saying that like I don't know what happened before the Big Bang. First of all, as a scientist, I don't know what the words before the Big Bang actually mean, because as far as I can tell, the Big Bang is the beginning of space and time as we know it today. There's some cosmological debate as to whether or not the universe was eternal and existed in a different state before the Big Bang, or if the Big Bang was the beginning of the known universe as we have it. Either way, we know for sure that time isn't before that in the way that we can think of it, or have any evidence for. So I don't know what the question, what's before the Big Bang, means. I don't know if it's a question that makes sense, but that doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I don't know. And I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. I don't know is a perfectly cool thing to say. It's not acceptable to say, I don't know, therefore magic. Therefore, there must be some guy who lives out there in a place that doesn't exist, in a time that can't be. And that guy whipped up the universe, especially when you take it further and talk about the Bible, because then you're not only saying there's some guy, you're saying there's a guy. And also that guy cares what fabrics you wear and what food you eat and who you have sex with and how you cut your hair and all those other things. And the entire hinge of that guy existing and all of these preferences this guy has is that you don't know something about what happened 13.8 billion years ago. So I don't think that it's reasonable to use ignorance as an excuse for coming up with magical claims about the universe.
Of course. So when my kids ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, right? I don't make up a story. I say that I don't know, and I'll get back to them, right?
Sure.
I think that's
why don't you do that with the Big Bang,
right?
Why don't you do that with the Big Bang?
Well, I don't think there's enough data out there, right? Just as you said.
There's not enough data to say you don't know.
No, I'm saying when my kids ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I say, I don't know. I'll get back to you. You just said that you don't know what the word before the Big Bang even means, so you don't know yourself.
Yeah, but you just told us that there must be something. And we don't know that. We don't know that there must be something. So you're already jumping to a conclusion that neither Forrest or I are willing to jump to. And if my kid asked me what came before the Big Bang, I would say, I don't even know that's the question that we ask. That's how I would respond.
Yep. And then we move on. So that's the thing, is you're saying you're willing to say, I don't know, when somebody asks you a question. But when you come to this point of something that nobody knows at all, you're not willing to say, I don't know. Instead, you say, I don't know. Therefore, there must be some extra dimension of reality, this celestial plane with gods and angels and demons. And there's a guy there that makes planets and shit and made life, and that cares about who you have sex with and whether or not you're gay and you're adding in all this stuff instead of just saying, I don't know.
No, of course. So the reason why I say, the reason why I point to, what you just said, right? The celestial plane of existence, right? As an excuse for before the Big Bang is because of the proofs you find in the Bible. And I know you're probably not a big fan. I'd really like to point just to the New Testament. I think the Old Testament, which is what you reference quite a bit in your discussion there, has a lot of inconsistencies and is outdated, right?
Wait, we're already back to where we were at the beginning of this call, which is we don't care about the Bible. That's not proof of anything. It is the claim. So we're asking for evidence for that claim. I was a Christian for 25 years. I know the Bible very well. I have multiple Bibles. I still read them sometimes when it's applicable to the work that I'm doing. So I know the Bible really well. That's not helpful. I need to know why I should care what the Bible says. And reading me something from the Bible or telling me your interpretation of something in the Bible is not going to get me there.
Okay, so to address your points, I need to understand, what about the Bible do you not believe? Do you believe the entire book is just completely false? Do you believe that the people in the Bible existed, but they didn't do what they did? I'd like to know exactly what about it you don't believe in.
Let's pretend I've never even heard of the Bible, and we're on a call show where you just have a few minutes, and I'm saying, hey, before I'm even willing to pick up this book that you're telling me I should read, I need to know, is there a God? So I would just want evidence of a God before I would even care to give another religious textbook the time of day. So what's your evidence for a God?
Well, I would say this is one point I was cut off for a little while ago, is the start of life. When I was in high school, my biology teacher taught me the 7 different qualities that define a living thing. And those things were, I can't list all of them, but one of them was that it's able to replicate and reproduce.
But it doesn't really matter.
No, yeah, I know. The only one that matters is that it's able to reproduce, right? And create life after that. And my question to you is, if there isn't a God, then where did the first life come from?
So
no idea.
If that's your most, so 2 things. Yeah. Number 1, you're doing the exact same thing again. You don't know something, and you're saying, it's rather than just saying, I don't know.
Right?
No, it's not.
You don't even know what you can eliminate because you don't know what options there are.
Precisely. It's not the process of elimination.
What
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm explaining. I understand there's a delay, but just give us a second, all right? That you're not doing process of elimination because you don't know what the options even are. You're assuming that the only 2 possibilities are a completely naturalistic option or your specific God alone. When there's a million other options. It could have been life-producing fairies. It could have been life that crapped itself through a wormhole and popped up here into this universe. It could have been a different God. It could have been something that isn't a God. We could be in a simulation and none of this is real, and there's a God somewhere else that's different than yours. It could have been a million other things, because it's all bullshit. And the only thing we can do is look at the evidence we have and try to draw a conclusion from it. And if you don't know something, you should be willing to just say, I don't know, and then try to find out and not make up bullshit magical excuses if you can't. Now, as far as the origin of life is concerned, there's a tremendous amount that we do and don't know. We know that the things that make life, or rather, we can go even further back than that. We know where atoms come from. We know where different elements come from, where different types of atoms come from. We know where all the atoms that make up life come from. We know how they self-assemble into the basic molecules that make the things that make life. We know how the basic molecules of life self-assemble. We know how the major macromolecules of life self-assemble. Well, at least we know a lot of it. We don't know everything about that yet. We know how a lot of the natural processes of how the major macromolecules self-assemble. There's some parts about how the intermediate molecules work that we don't know yet either. We know that things like, you're talking about how the only important thing is self-replication. We know that RNA self-assembles and that it self-replicates. We have laboratory experiments showing it doing these things. So, like, we know a lot of shit about how life gets started. We don't know everything yet. Every time we answer a question, we get 3 more questions. That's the point of science. But I'm willing to sit here and say we have strong evidence for a natural explanation, strong evidence for a natural process, and absolutely undeniable evidence of, as soon as life gets started, everything that comes after that for the past 3.8 billion years, every bit of evolution, that is solid. We got that down real well. And so... Sure. I don't need to come up with some magical explanation to fill in the blanks. I can just say, here's the stuff that I don't know. I don't know how amino acids are homochiral. I don't know an abiotic process to do that. I don't know how lipids self-elongate and self-polymerize. I don't know that very well. I'm not entirely sure how the earliest cells self-assembled and became self-replicating. I know how different parts of them can, but there's a DNA world hypothesis, an RNA world hypothesis, and a protein world hypothesis that are kind of competing about that. I'm a big fan of the RNA world hypothesis myself, but it's still just a hypothesis. And so, like, there's a lot we don't know, and I'm willing to sit here and say we've learned a ton, and we don't know everything. We know more today than we did 10 years ago, and creationism still has zip. Your evidence is I don't know something else. But X equals 0 does not mean Y equals 1, Trevor.
Of course. So you made 2 points I'd like to address them both. First, you said that, the kind of point we've been reiterating, that because I can't fill in all the blanks, that I fill it in with God. And that's not right to do, because down the line, we could fill in the blanks later. It's better. The better answer is just to say, I don't know. Right. And then you said that out of all the reasons you could choose for, why choose your specific God? And to answer that, the reason is because when I look at the points of all the different gods we have records of, right, oral tradition, whatever it takes, I see the Christian God as the best option, and that's the reason why I choose him. Now,
do you want to go with the best option or the true option?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What do you mean by best?
We've been best as in like the most accurate, the one that makes the most sense.
How do you know you've heard about all possible God options? What if somebody else comes up, calls the show another day with some God we've never even heard of, and they're able to actually give us evidence for a God? Why should
then you reassess, right? I'm not like I'm rigid. Right.
But so far, you're on a level playing field with every other person that calls us about any other God.
Well, I don't think that's true. And I could point to evidence in the Bible between, all the different witnesses and all the different accounts and the people that died for it. But I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times.
People die for all kinds of other religions all the time.
That's the thing. Do
course,
any of those things make your truth?
Do they get a reverse crucifixion? Not so often.
No, because that's not what we do now. They get other things.
Yeah, like there's the amount of people who blow themselves up for different gods today is like there's lots of people who have died and killed and done amazing and terrible things for all sorts of other gods. There are plenty of people who have had personal testimony and personal experiments with these
were people that saw. These were people that saw. These were people that could testify whether or not he came back from the dead, and yet they still died.
No,
like the
they did not. No, they did not.
Well, yes, they did. The 12 apostles can confirm.
We have absolutely no eyewitness testimonies from Jesus. The Gospels were written decades after he supposedly lived, and we have absolutely no firsthand accounts. We have no original documents from the Bible whatsoever. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true, but it does mean that you have nothing to go off of that's any better than any other religious claim from any other person. In fact, you could very easily have somebody with a different religion sit here and tell you, I don't need that stuff because God has personally revealed itself to me. And it means just as nothing as what you're saying to us today.
Of course, when you have one person that says God has revealed himself to me, it's not very strong, right? But when you have thousands, when you have multiple different documents, when you have historians, when you have the largest empire in the world.
Trevor, can I point something out to you? Sorry, Dr. Trevor.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah,
so it's fine.
I'll give you everything. Let's say everything in the Bible happened. Let's say it's all true. Now, all I believe is that there's a dead God, that this God doesn't exist at all anymore, and that Jesus is nowhere to be seen, and that everything stopped once the Bible stopped, because we have zero evidence of anything else after that. Let me clarify, I don't think that the Bible is true. I don't think the things in the Bible are, most of them most of the biggest claims have been easily disproven just based off of the way they're written. It's like impossible. And we have no evidence, like people raising from the dead. We have no evidence of that happening. So I'm asking you, what is your evidence that there is a God? Because I assume you believe that actively there is a God, right?
Right. So you're asking me why am I so confident that a God exists? And I'd like to ask you, why are you so confident that a God doesn't exist, right?
Oh my God. Why are you That's not what anybody's saying.
Why are you happy not thinking all these other things don't exist, that you don't even know you don't believe they don't exist? That's not how this goes at all.
When you try to turn it around, it just falls apart. Like I can tell you right now, Trevor,
we can turn this around. We can turn this around all the time.
I can tell you right now that I have an elephant living behind this bookshelf behind me at this moment. You can say yes, there is, no, there isn't, or I don't believe you. It might be. It's a callback to another show. Don't worry about it. If I tell you this, you can say yes, there is, no, there isn't, or I don't believe you. If you say yes, there is, or no, there isn't, then you need some evidence for that thing. You would need a reason to believe that. But if you just say I don't believe you, you still don't believe the thing. You're waiting on me to give you evidence of the claim that I am making. And that's exactly how we are with your God. We're not sitting here telling you that we know absolutely for sure there's no such thing as a God. I'm pretty damn sure there's no such thing as a Christian God, because the Christian God that's described in the Bible makes zero fucking sense. But like, who knows? Maybe somewhere on some other corner of the universe, the laws of physics are different and that guy can exist. All I'm saying is I don't believe you. I don't think that thing's real. I don't have any reason to believe that thing is real. And until you give me a good reason to believe that thing is real, I'm not going to buy into it. If you can demonstrate that the Christian God is real, I will be the first person to sit here and say, yes, that God is real. And then I will stay on this show and continue telling people not to worship it because the Christian God is clearly a monster. But like that, I would still agree with it. It's not just because I don't like it. It's not because I say it isn't any of it. I just don't believe you.
Okay. Let's see. Give me one moment.
Are you just going through a script right now? Why don't you just address what we're saying?
Well, no. I mean, we've kind of gone around in a circle here. I mean, you say you don't believe because.
Dr. Trevor, if you don't have more reasons to offer us to believe in the God that you believe in, that's totally fine. If you want to call back another time, that's fine. Because I do agree. I think we have kind of come back around in a circle. Because I haven't heard anything convincing whatsoever this entire conversation. I'm like, where's the evidence? And I haven't been presented with anything. So yeah, unless you have like another thing.
Much of anything. There's very little evidence for much of anything in the world, right? You have to look at the point of there's a vacuum.
Trevor,
well, it is. It really is.
I need to ask you, like, what is your doctorate in? I'm saying this just so I understand.
Theology.
Okay, so then clearly you would have some familiarity with like how evidence actually works, right?
Of course.
Okay, so what's there more evidence for? Is there more evidence for the continent of Australia existing, despite the fact that neither of us are currently there right now? Or is there more evidence for, say, the fact that we are on the phone right now?
I would say there's more evidence that we're on the phone.
Right, and so like even though there's ample evidence of Australia being there, right? But like, even at this very moment, you have empirical evidence that we're on the phone. You're experiencing it at this very second, right? So you say there's not evidence for much of anything in the world. There's a fuckload of evidence for lots of things in the world. Now, as far as you can say, well, we can't really know anything for sure. Sure, why not? But don't bullshit us and say there's not evidence for anything. Therefore, I don't really need evidence for a magical monster in the sky. There's zero evidence for your God. There's plenty of evidence for lots of things in the world that actually exist. Don't try to conflate the two.
No, sure. So at the end of the day, what it comes down to is I say there's a vacuum in what we don't know, and you agree. And I say that the signs point to God, and you say that they don't.
What signs point to God? What signs point to God? That would be something to think about.
Sure. So the precision of the universe, right? Which I'm sure you have arguments for. I've heard them 1,000 times. I'd happy to go into that. The origin of life, which you've addressed by telling me that you don't know where that comes from, and I tell you that I have a reason that it came to be.
You don't have a reason. I mean, what is your reason to say that life came from a God? Because so far, all you've given us is, I don't know, so magic. I don't know isn't a reason. Ignorance is not evidence.
Well, no, but if you have a scenario in which has no explanation, then you start looking for other explanations, do you not? You start looking for explanations that may be a little less founded.
And when I find evidence for an explanation, then I start to believe it. I don't believe an explanation without evidence. That's what you're doing. You're saying, I don't have an explanation, so I'm going to look for explanations, and I'm going to pick the one that I like the best. That's not how thinking works.
So the Big Bang is a theory, correct? Right? That's how it goes, Big Bang theory, right?
Do you know what the word theory means?
Right. I know exactly what it means, right? The evidence points to that, but it doesn't do it for sure. There's no eyewitness accounts of the Big Bang, right?
Do you believe in gravity, Trevor?
Of course I do.
Do you believe in cells?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe in germs?
Yep.
Do you believe in atoms?
I do.
Do you believe in, let's say, that the Earth goes around the sun? Do you believe in that?
I do.
Does it bother you that all of those things are theories? No, I'm asking you, does it bother you that all of those things are theories? Or is it only when it comes to your religion that you say, well, that's just a theory and there were no eyewitnesses, so we don't really know?
Well, I'm pretty sure we can knock off the world revolves around the sun, because the sun does come up every day. I don't think that's much of a theory, right?
It is a theory. Heliocentric model. It is a model. It is a theory.
Right. Models
first
that we
proposed by
observed
Copernicus a little while ago.
Through space. No?
Yeah, so you don't know what the word theory means then?
All right, break it down for me. What's your definition?
The definition, not just my definition, a theory is a functional explanation for observed natural phenomena that's backed by all the best evidence that we have. As you pointed out earlier, by trying to bullshit us and say that there's no real evidence for anything, nobody can ever really know anything ever. Science doesn't deal in proof. Science deals in evidence. So a theory is the best model for the way that something works in nature that's backed by all of the evidence that we've got and contradicted by none of it. If we have something that goes against it, then we either change the theory or throw it out. So the heliocentric model of the solar system is a theory, as are atoms, cells, plate tectonics, germs, and also abiogenesis, and also the Big Bang. These are things that all of our evidence is pointing to. We don't have a theory of intelligent design or anything like that because we have zero evidence for that. So theory is the highest level that an idea can possibly get to in science. Theory is the peak. It is the top. It is the pinnacle. And you've got nothing. You've got something far, far worse than that. You've got not even a hypothesis. You've just got, I like this story.
So you're right. I don't have any evidence, right? But neither do you. And that's where it comes down to.
Evidence
for what? Theory. No,
bullshit.
No, let me finish. When you have a vacuum, when you have a complete vacuum of you don't know, when you say, where does life come from? And you say, you don't know, then you have to say, okay, so what's the best theory? That's what you said. The Big Bang is with the best evidence. And right now, the best evidence points to a creator, right? A God.
Bullshit. No, Trevor, it's very
Now
clear
you're
that
just
either you
asserting
are
stuff.
you are either not listening to what we're saying or you are desperate to ignore it. Because here's the thing. I just told you about abiogenesis. I told you some of the evidence we have. We know where the atoms that make life comes from. We understand stellar nucleosynthesis. We understand the theory behind that. We understand how that shit works. We understand the stuff that makes life, amino acids, fatty acids, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, simple sugars. Like, we understand that those things self-assemble. We find them in space all the time. We understand how a lot of those things self-polymerize. We don't know everything about it, but we know quite a bit. We know so much about how life gets started and how all the pieces of life come together through natural processes. We have a shitload of evidence for abiogenesis. Me saying I don't know isn't saying I know zero. It's me saying I don't have a complete picture. You know zero about your God or about creationism or about any of this other shit because you can't even prove that this God exists, let alone that it has the ability to do the things you say that it can do, let alone that it did any of the things that you said it can do, let alone that it did it enough to have all of this happen. Maybe it did it and then all that life died out, and what we see now is the natural life that came later. You have absolutely nothing to stand on, and you're trying to go up against real science that actually gives a shit about what's going on in the universe around us and say, well, you don't know everything forever all the time perfectly, so really, we're both stupid. And that doesn't make any fucking sense, dude. That's not how thinking works. That's not how science works.
So I think you're misunderstanding. What I'm saying is that there is a gap, right? There's a gap in what we don't know. You don't know where life originated in the first place. You don't know what the first thing.
Literally why we call it God of the Gaps. Yep.
Of course.
Right? And that's the thing, man.
And it's for a reason.
15 years ago, that gap would have been significantly larger, and you would have said, look at all this space for God. And 100 years ago, that gap would have been enormous. You would have said, look at all this space for God. And in 20 years, when we figure out a little bit more about abiogenesis, you'll have less and less and less space for your God. Your God is an ever-receding pocket of ignorance. And as soon enough, as it always is with intelligent design, you brought up the complexity of the universe a minute ago in just offhand comment. What always happens is that here's a bunch of shit we don't know, therefore God. And then when we know it, you turn around and say, look, it's so complex and so beautiful, therefore it must be God. Why don't you just be honest with yourself and us and just say that you just want to believe this? You believe it because you believe it because you believe it because you believe it. It doesn't matter what evidence there is or isn't. You're just inserting this God that you like because you have to.
I'm inserting the God that I like because there is no evidence for anything else. And whatever evidence
why not
there
say,
is,
I don't know. Why do you have to fill in the blank? I would never tell a kid, just like you brought up this example, if my kid comes to me and says, what is the cause of this? And if I don't know, I'm not going to say, you know what? It's actually this being that I don't have any evidence for its existence, but I don't have evidence for anything else filling in this blank. So now I'm going to offer this up as an answer just so I can say I have an answer. That's not a real answer. That's making something up.
Of course. So the point is that when I say I don't know, I then say, if there is no answer, I look it up and there's no answer, then I have to point to something that
we don't
maybe
have
gives me
something, and we don't know that there is no answer. We have no idea, and I hope we figure it out.
The reason why I point to something is because I see something
try something different. Say we have a murder trial, right? There's somebody who's been killed, and we don't have evidence. We don't know who murdered this person. We have no footprints, no fingerprints, no motive, no video, nothing. We just found a dead body. We have no idea how they got dead. Is it reasonable for me to then say Bigfoot did it?
No, I wouldn't say so.
But we don't know. We don't have any evidence. We don't know anything. And I think that Bigfoot's probably real, so therefore Bigfoot did it. Why is that not a reasonable thing to do, Trevor?
Well, it's not reasonable because you don't have any proof one way or another, right? But it is reasonable to say that this person was murdered by someone, somewhere, somehow.
Right. And so it is reasonable to say that life got started somewhere, somehow. We don't have evidence of a God, so it's not reasonable to say God did it, because we don't know that a God exists. We don't know if the God could do that. We don't know that the God did do that. We just don't know. And so we can look for evidence and build a model, a theory based on that evidence. We don't get to interject magic or Bigfoot for things that we don't understand. I'm glad you get it. Glad we're on the same page.
I'm interested to hear. No, yeah, we absolutely are on the same page, except we differ when we finally get down to it, right? Because you say, oh, well, no one must have done it. And I say, well, it could have been Bigfoot, right?
I've got a question for you then. So, okay, we all look
Sure.
at the universe and we all say we don't know the start of the universe, except I'm going to show up and claim that it was actually me. And here I am in front of your eyes telling you, or on the phone, if you can't see me, that it was actually me. I started the universe. I created it. I don't have evidence of that, actually, that I can show you, but I'm claiming it. I did it. And you don't have another answer. Mm-hmm. So it must have been me.
You have more evidence for evil than not for God.
Yeah, you have a lot more evidence for me than your God.
That's not true. Then I look to your accreditations, right? I look to the Bible. I look to the
hold on.
People that died for it.
No, you don't get to get away with saying that. What evidence do you have for God that supersedes the evidence that you have for promise?
I just told you. I have a Bible. I have accounts. I have witnesses. I have people that died for it.
And I actually have like 20 other notebooks that I filled to the brim in that other room, and I can go get them if you want. And they're full of a lot more relevant things than anything in the Bible because they're written now.
I guarantee Promise's notebooks are more verifiable than anything. Okay, so the validity of the documents doesn't apply. It's just that it's a document.
So wait,
somebody wrote something down. That means it's true.
Well, no, but when you have multiple people writing something down and you have multiple sources, you have different groups of people, you have different belief systems.
Hey, Forrest, would you write part of my Bible for me? I would love for you to.
I'm working on it right now.
Yeah, if we can text the Discord and we can get all the other hosts to add in. And then we can can we make sure that there's 67 books in this Bible, please? Because I want more than Bible. Thank you.
And that's great. But what you don't have is you don't have a friend in the other room who knows that you're false and will still die for it.
I've got it right here. It says promise is real. I promise. That's why her name is Promise, because she is the promise of reality that she made the universe. Isn't that cool? And now you have multiple people from multiple traditions that are all proving she's real.
We're rolling with your point super hard.
Trevor, if I die for this belief, would it make it true?
12 people.
I'll get 13.
You're ignoring the point that you'll get 13. You'll convince 13 people to do a reverse crucifixion, and they know you're a liar. You're going to get 13 people to do that?
We've had people convince hundreds of people all at once to take their own lives using Kool-Aid.
Yes.
That's why we have the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid. People have done this over and over again. There's nothing unique about dying because of a charismatic leader. And there's certainly nothing unique about telling a story about somebody saying that somebody died for another leader. Like, this is not interesting. This is not evidence. And you're not being honest. This entire call, you have not been honest with your engagement with the argument. And it's very frustrating.
Like there's not a single thing you've offered about the validity of the Bible that can't be applied to anything else that you would not consider valid. Caring about it doesn't make it true. Witnesses doesn't make this true. But dying for it doesn't make it true. Having a religion based around it doesn't make it true. Having legislation based around it doesn't make it true. Like there's zero, absolutely nothing that you've offered thus far that is any kind of actual compelling evidence for anything else in the whole universe. You just like this God claim, so it's good enough for you.
So here's the evidence, right? Here's evidence said loosely, right? We've been conflating that a bit. When you have somebody that knows something is false, right? They have a life they can go back to, right? They're a skilled, you have a banker, fisherman, right? They can go, move to Egypt out of the heat, and they can live on with their lives.
What's your evidence that that's true? What's your evidence that they have that option?
No, whoa. I'm just pointing to like the 12 apostles here, right? Their professions, right? They've seen that, just say in your reality, they've seen that Jesus did not rise from the dead, that he tricked them, right? These are the people that drank the Kool-Aid. They didn't see that. They were deceived. They had no proof. But these people have proof that Jesus is a fraud. And yet they still go reverse crucify themselves. They know what's at stake. So why would they do that?
The apostles could be wrong. They could have made a mistake. Also, can't stress this enough. I'm 99% sure we don't actually have any evidence that these people actually existed. And I know absolutely for sure that we have no actual eyewitness testimonies from anything in the Bible, and that the Gospels were written long after the time that these things supposedly happened. And we also have no firsthand accounts, and we also have no first documents. I know that for fucking sure.
Okay, so you're saying
but
because
assuming
it was a long time ago, it can't be true?
Assuming it's true. Is that no? Hold on, the fucking second. Is that what I just fucking said, Trevor? Is that what I just said?
You said that. You said there's no evidence because there's no validation, which there is. You can look it up. You can look up the various different accounts that supersede the Bible, the Bible.
No, just for a second, promise, if you wouldn't mind. No, we're not moving past that for just a second. What I said was, we do not have any firsthand accounts. We do not have any original documents. We do not have any eyewitnesses. And you turned around and said, okay, so you're just saying it's old. That means it isn't. That's fucking dishonest and shitty. I'm not going to sit here and just argue with myself.
I was trying to boil it down. I apologize.
How? No, how? How is that boiling that down? How is it boiling it down for me to say we don't have any firsthand accounts and nobody who was there to witness it actually wrote anything down, and we don't have any firsthand evidence, we don't have any first documents? How is it boiling it down to say, oh, it's just old?
Because we don't have any firsthand evidence of the Big Bang, and yet we both believe it to be true. So then how come
and we're right back around
believing that was 100% true?
Dr. Trevor.
Because we actually have real evidence for it.
Is it possible that
do we have first-hand accounts?
Is it possible that the disciples all got together and they said, shit, we were wrong. This guy is just a human. He died. However, we think this cause is a really good cause. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and live as though it were true because we think that's the right thing to do and it'll change the world if we do it, even though it's going to be for a lie. Is that possible? Could that have happened?
Perfectly possible. Most anything is possible.
So then why would I believe this one case scenario that has zero evidence outside of what you're pointing to in the Bible? It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
I suggest you go listen to this. I suggest that you go listen to this call because there were so many times when you responded to each of us with, of course, and then went on to completely not get the point, or in Forrest's case, state something that was just not true and that's not what he said or even implied. And I don't know how much of this you're really hearing and listening to actually engage with, or just to, like, as you've said, you've heard all of this a million times and you have your script that you stick to and you circle back to the exact same thing every time, which is what I just heard happen. So
No. I don't have a script. And I know I've said, of course, quite a bit. I apologize, you guys. Do make lengthy points and they can be sometimes hard to follow. But the point about the disciples is just that they said they saw something, right? And it wasn't just them, right? There was several people, thousands, right, that watched his crucifixion and saw him alive again. And they all go on to say
we have some texts, we have some copies of texts that say that some people said something. We don't have thousands of witness accounts at all, and you know that.
Yeah, I do. You're right. The texts say that thousands of people said this. So the one person that wrote the text could have been completely lying, of course.
Right.
But when you have a text that is then published and those thousands of people say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't say that, then you might have an issue.
What do you say about the martyrs from all sorts of other religions who died for their beliefs? What about the Sikhs and the Hindus and the Muslims who died over their religions? Does that mean that all those religions are true as well?
No, you've completely missed my point. You've completely missed the fact that the apostles knew it was false and those people didn't, right? Those people were tricked into believing something that may or may not have been true. And the apostles saw
and now we're right back to the same thing. And now we're right back to the same thing.
You were the one that brought up the same point about the martyrs.
I'm just going to repeat it because clearly you didn't get it when Promise said it. Is it possible that somebody could be martyred for their religion today, even if they didn't believe it was true, but they just thought it was a really good idea?
It absolutely is. And, that's a great point.
Yes.
But when I look
and
to
it's true back then, and it's true today. And take away the fact that the martyrs of the religions today, we actually fucking knew they existed. And so, like, we're just going back to this round and round where evidence only matters when you decide it doesn't, and you can just throw it away and say, I believe this because I believe it because I believe it. When it's something like the Big Bang, which we actually have empirical evidence of, something that we can actually test and falsify, then, well, you need an eyewitness account. And when it comes to eyewitness accounts, it's, well, it doesn't matter if we actually knew whether or not these people actually existed. It says it in a book.
I'm not arguing for eyewitness accounts by any means. I think that we have to.
Do we have any evidence of the apostles outside of the Bible?
Yes, there's tons of documents that correlate that.
I'm double checking because I don't know. I don't study theology.
No, go ahead.
So Dr. Trevor, it keeps coming back to the same thing for me, and then I think we need to move on because we have other theists that have been waiting a long time, and unfortunately, we've gotten nowhere.
I think I've made my point.
But yeah, I do. I think I understand what you've stated as your reasons for belief, and I don't think they're good reasons, and that's fine. We can end on that point. If you want to listen to the call and ever call back and clarify something and talk to another host or something, go for it. But I think what it comes down to is it is truly God of the gaps. You don't have an answer for something. You feel most comfortable applying this specific religion. I'm not going to speculate on why you picked that one in particular, what influence it may have had based off of where you grew up or the kinds of people you were around growing up and all of that. But I think that's where we've left this, is that you have filled in a gap. And that's why you believe. And now the Bible is really interesting to you. And so your narrative has to fit with that. And you've spent a lot of time learning about the Bible. You have your PhD in theology. Is that what you said? So,
yes.
I understand that the Bible is interesting to you. I understand that the disciples are interesting to you. They're not to me because I have no reason to care about any of it. And until you can get me across that bridge, then you are the same to me as listening to anybody talk about any other religious text with any other God claim. So, anything you want to add for us?
I did some light Googling. I can't find anything conclusive, but it's also a light Google search. It's certainly not a scholarly deep dive here. However, I do have earlier on in the call when Trevor said he has no evidence for any of this and that doesn't matter because something. So like, I can just go back and listen to that and say that I'm right on it, but it doesn't matter. The point is, even if these people did exist,
about evidence in a more solidified matter.
Right. The point is, even if all these people existed, even if they all died, it doesn't really matter to me in any way because lots of people die for lots of reasons all the time. Also, those documents, those records of them being crucified upside down, those could also be falsified. We don't have any direct evidence of these things. And even if we did, it wouldn't mean very much to me because if the God of the Bible is real, he's a dick and I don't want anything to do with him. I would admit that he's real, but I certainly wouldn't worship it. So all you've given us for the past 48 minutes here, Trevor, is stuff that you don't know, and you fill it in with God, stuff that you think might be real, and then that adds some credibility to this God maybe existing. You've yet to address any other claims from any other religion, which are just as valid as yours, and you've yet to grapple with the fact that ignorance isn't the same thing as evidence, and just saying that you don't know something isn't a good reason to supplant your God into there. If you took away everything that you have no reason to have a good belief in your God, you would be left with only, from what we've heard, only the fact that some people died for this belief 2,000 years ago. And that just doesn't do it for me. That's not good reason to believe that there is a divine monster that whipped up the universe and cares who I have butt sex with.
All right. You guys want the last point? I'll give it to you.
I don't. Is it going to be any better than the other stuff? You also, I 100% heard you say
we can end it here. We can end it here.
I still can't get over that. I've been hung up on that one for a while. Is your last point going to be more of the same shit, or is it actually going to be worth any time?
Well, all I was going to say is, can you believe in the life of Albert Einstein based off his biography, right?
Genuine question for you, Trevor. Is there more evidence for Albert Einstein or for the people described in the Bible?
I don't know. They're all written accounts.
Bullshit.
Oh
You are
my
absolutely
God,
full of shit.
I'm
You're not
so
serious. We
done
have
with this
fucking
call.
videos and photos of Albert Einstein. We have his actual writings, firsthand accounts from his
Could have been
family and
fake.
friends and people who knew him. This is absolutely absurd that you're going to say that that is as much faith as believing in the Bible. When you decide to be serious, feel free to call back, but it's very clear that you're just you're trying to get our head as far up our asses as yours is. I'm not into it. So Trevor, we're going to end the call here. Have an awesome rest of your day, dude.
Hi, Trevor.
I hate to be so shitty, but like an hour in, and you're going to seriously fucking say after an hour of us giving you every benefit of every doubt that it's a matter of faith whether you believe that Einstein existed. Fuck off. Like, absolutely not, dude. No.
Yeah. It's sad because what is he going to do? He studied theology and he's just clinging. I mean, that's not an excuse. I know plenty of people that studied that and they're atheists and blah, blah, blah. But I'm sure that he's having to cling to this. It's like a short circuit. Super civil, totally great to talk to. Otherwise, I'm sure if we were talking about something else, then it would be a lovely conversation. But when you just continue ending any sort of, we didn't get anywhere in the call because it just kept going to this dishonest place. It's so sad. But we do have other theists on the line. So
is that true? Somebody put in the chat we have Einstein's brain, and I've heard that we have Einstein's brain preserved. Is that actually a thing? I don't know if that's real. If we have Jesus's brain in a jar, maybe I'd listen. Is Einstein
be careful,
brain.
They'll start talking to you about the Shroud of Turin.
Fuck. The 1955 pathologist Dr. Thomas Harvey performed an autopsy. I can't speak today. Performed an autopsy on Albert Einstein and preserved his brain for study. Several years after he passed away, the estate contributed his slides and blah blah blah. So maybe it is. Oh my glob! His brain is currently at the National Museum of Health and Medicine. Great. I thought that was just an urban myth. That's wild.
Oh, man.
By the way, for those of you who are keeping up with the saga of FBI guy, he did the meme. I just checked. I looked up on the Instagram here, and several of you were like, hey, you should fucking call in. And sure enough, he was like, ask him if he lied about believing in God when he was amazed, like doing the exact thing. You need to ask him the questions that I want him to answer here in this comment section instead of in front of 10 people, rather than on a call-in show in front of tens of thousands of people. Bro, if this dude had anything on me, he would be dying to call in, right? If you want to expose somebody, then you would want to do. I'm rolling out the red carpet. I want to take that call so bad, and it's so.
Is it like somebody from school or something that knew you that is jealous of you and it doesn't want to use a voice disguiser or doesn't know how or something? Like, could it be something that knows you?
I have nothing to be jealous about besides my marriage.
No. I mean,
but like beyond that, like it's. I don't know. I genuinely like just this dude like I really want to take the call because it's become a meme at this point. Like I have 1,000 trolls that I tell them to call in. They say, fuck you and nothing else. But this one has become a meme at this point. Like I have people commenting on all of my fucking stuff about how they'll never catch Tommy Valkai. I want to sell shirts about it. I want this call. It sounds like fun. Please. Oh man. Okay, we've got, let's talk to a few more people here. Do you want to talk to line number 5? Or let's do line number 6 really quickly, because that's an atheist call that I know we want to hear from. Does that sound good to you?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Little palate cleanser.
Let's talk to Maureen. Maureen, pronoun she, her, calling in from Canada. She's been calling for a long time, talking about why she believed and trying to deconstruct, and now she's calling in with exciting news. Maureen, you're on the line with Forrest and Promise. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
I'm doing really well. It says here you've had a major life update.
Yeah, I'm a theist. I mean, I'm an atheist. Sorry.
It's hard.
I'm sorry. Oh, was that a Freudian slip? I don't know.
No, it's just easy. It's a habit.
I'll tell you, I just listening to that last call and Trevor's, I'm beginning to think I never really had a strong belief in God, because I could not go on that long without giving you some proof of something. And now I think I just went along with whatever I was told. And now I'm even more angrier.
That's some amazing
Welcome to the angry atheist phase.
Yeah, this is the angry phase.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Because I think I started out a little scared, and then I was maybe a little sad. And then I sort of became angry because I felt, why did I waste so much time on theism? And now Trevor's made me even more angrier because I feel so stupid that I just went along with it for so long.
Oh, Maureen.
It's great.
Sorry, keep going. You keep going.
Yeah, I just wanted one quick thing. I find myself kind of trying to rationalize some of the things that I grabbed onto. And there's one quote from the Bible I always hold on to, and it's, do unto others as you would unto yourself. And
hell yeah,
that was just something that a man wrote about how we should treat each other. And I think that's the only thing I've taken away from whatever it was that I was into, Christianity.
And there's a reason why that phrase in almost the exact same words is in like damn near every religious and cultural tradition around the world. I remember, I think it was Hillel. There was this great rabbi, was talking about the Torah. And there's this famous story where someone challenged him and was like, recite the entire Torah while standing on one leg. And he stood up on one leg and said, treat others how you'd want to be treated. Everything else is just commentary. And like that, it's just like, that's the whole point of the thing. That's the whole point of a lot of religions and a lot of cultures and a lot of belief systems. And I fucking love that's what you're taking away. Just add the caveat, because treat everyone how you want to be treated unless you're a masochist. That's what I like.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I used to like that too, but not to like burst more bubbles for you. My problem with that now is that I don't like to be treated the same way a lot of other people like to be treated. So, for example, my husband was just telling me that he doesn't want his birthday celebrated. He's not into birthdays. It doesn't even go so well with his culture. They're not into like giant displays of celebration and all of that. I love a birthday. I don't want to be treated like that. And he doesn't want to be treated like I want to be treated on my birthday. We all have differences, and I think that's great. So I feel like we have to kind of finesse that and make it more of, treat others how they want to be treated.
That makes sense because everybody is different. I understand that.
Yeah. And that's my problem with a lot of the things that people will tell me, well, don't you love this thing about the Bible still? And it's like, yeah, but each thing, it got me at a good place, but it can always be made much better. I can't think of anything in the Bible, honestly, that's left over that I don't think can be significantly bettered. So that's another thing for you to have fun looking through in your deconstruction angry phase is some things you're going to be like, wait, that wasn't even that helpful of a thing. Like, it's sweet and it's cool, but then it's like, wait, like the supposed God of the universe gave us this wisdom and it's not even that wise, and other people now can say it better and practice it better. Anyway, sorry, all that to say, I'm very proud of you and really happy for you. Also, good luck with all this like reprogramming thing. It is a roller coaster ride.
Well, it has been, and I like to thank you guys. I just found your shows just a few months ago, and you really gave me a lot to think about, and you're always truthful. And I always come back to that, well, you don't have any evidence, but you guys, you never just come right out and say, well, you guys are just out of it. You guys just don't know anything. You always say, you got to give me some proof of this. And that's the whole thing. Yeah, there is no proof of that. That was a waste of my time, and now I'm going to move on to something else. I'm going to move on, like you said, to treating people as they want to be treated.
I love that.
That's a good thing.
You have nothing but exciting things ahead of you now, because you get to figure out who you are apart from religion, apart from who you've been told you have to be. And you get to look at the world through a whole new, less filtered perspective. So I'm really appreciate you calling us to tell us that too. That means a lot to hear We hear from people, but to get to talk to somebody in real time while they're going through their process is really cool. So thanks for sharing with all of us.
Well, thank you guys again, and have a good night.
Thanks so much,
Take
Maureen.
care.
You too.
See you later, Maureen.
Bye.
Fucking.
That makes me so happy. Update. And I love that we have in real time reactions to what a call from somebody like Dr. Trevor does. For some people that are just like Trevor, that are still stuck in this cycle of belief where they don't know how to get out of it, they're going to double down and hear it and whatever their excuse is going to be. But for a lot of people hearing that, and that's how it was for me, hearing these sorts of conversations, it's like, wait a second. These are the answers we have for this stuff, Yeah. So thanks for those kinds of calls. As frustrating as they are.
Very cool. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. It's that's people ask why we do these things, you know what I mean? We're just apologists out here trying to share our gospel of atheism, but no, that matters. That matters very much. And it makes me smile.
Yeah.
We've got 2 theists and 1 something on the line here. And then we also have 1 atheist who's been waiting a long time, but they're gonna have to fucking keep waiting. Fuck you, Charlie. You're waiting forever.
All right.
We might continue weaving in atheist calls, but I'm gonna ask you, Miga Mia, what do you want to do? What are you thinking?
Oh, surprise me. I'm excited with any of these.
For fuck's sake, look at that as well. Let's talk to what? Okay. Yeah, let's get through this one. This person's name listed on the call screen is Catholic Traditionalist. Do I call you Catholic? Do I call you traditional? Can you give me a different name to call? It doesn't matter. Pronounce he, him. Calling in from Long Anus, who says, ontological intelligibility proves God. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make a bet here. And just before I put this person on the line, I'm just going to write something down. Give me 2 seconds. I'm sorry for the dead air here. I'm just going to write down.
Oh, this is exciting. What do we call them? Kathy for short? I don't know.
That's good.
Traditionalist. I mean, whatever they want to be called is fine, but I can't wait to hear what your bet is.
Yes. Okay. So Catholic Traditionalist, Kathy for short. Welcome to the line. I'm Forrest. That's Promise. How are you doing today?
Yeah. How you doing? You could just call me CT for short.
Why not?
Just abbreviated.
Much easier. Thank you.
Much easier, yes. So what is this ontological intelligibility that you were talking about?
Yeah, you would agree that everything that you perceive to exist is intelligible, right?
I guess. I'm not a philosopher. I'm a biologist. But I would say yeah, I can kind of take in that information, make some sense of it. That does not mean that I can gather all information about the universe using just my own perception.
Well, I didn't say all. I said that which you are able to perceive to exist. The set
right.
That
which I'm able to perceive. That which I'm able to perceive, I am usually able to make sense of. Usually.
Right. So it's informational. It's intelligible. It has the being of being intelligible, so that you can make sense of it. So it has.
I don't know if that
ontological. Yeah. So it has ontological intelligibility. Now, intelligibility itself is an abstract. It's not a concrete thing. You can't show me intelligibility. You give me the definition of it, but you can't show it to me. So it's an abstracts of the mind. So that would mean that before you existed, before I existed, before any humans or life existed in the universe, there had to be a mind that was involved in instantiating and imposing all things, the planets, the galaxies, the atoms, you name it, anything that you could conceive of. There was a mind that was imposing and instantiating that. That's the mind of God.
So it's the fine-tuning argument, only with minds instead of with physics.
Basically.
Is that about right?
Well, I don't know about this fine-tuning argument. I'm just telling you that from my perspective, the argument that I'm putting forward is ontological intelligibility proves the existence of God.
Why does
right? You're saying
why does intelligibility require a source? Why can't it just be?
Yeah. Also,
well, if you're going to say that it can just be,
and also
that would be
it is reflexive.
Well,
if you're going makes more sense to say like when you look at any animal, it is adapted to its niche. And so it would make no sense to say this niche was designed for this animal to be adapted into. It makes, excuse me. Oh my God. It makes more sense to say this animal adapted, the niche is already there. So for us, we evolved in this world. We gained the ability to make intelligible sense of the world around us. And you even admitted there's a lot of stuff that we can't pick up on and can't understand. So it makes more sense to say we are able to perceive the world around us because we evolved the ability to perceive it. The world was here first, we came later and adapted into it. It sounds like what you're saying is that all of this ability to be perceived was set in motion on purpose, and then we came later, and our ability to perceive the things was a like afterthought or something.
No, because you're speaking about epistemology. I'm speaking about ontology. With regards to intelligibility, it can have the definition with regards to the ability to perceive something, understand something, but it can also have the definition of a thing itself having the ability to be understood. And that's the argument that I'm making with regards to ontology, not epistemology.
I don't understand the difference, and maybe I'm missing something here, but I don't understand the difference between you saying that we are able to, like, these things are intelligible, and therefore somebody made them intelligible, as opposed to any other claim of saying the Earth is perfect for life, and therefore somebody made it perfect for life, or the laws of physics are just so perfect to make the universe the way it is, therefore the universe is the way it is. Like that's it sounds the very same to me.
Hold on.
You're just
Also,
picking a different thing to rely on.
You're saying anything that exists must be or is intelligible, correct?
Well, anything that you're capable of perceiving to exist. Like, for example,
So are
if
we
you're
able
looking
to
at a
perceive?
sphere,
Are we able to perceive that a God exists?
yes.
So that God is intelligible, correct?
Yes.
So what's the explanation for the intelligibility of a God if you have to give an explanation for the intelligibility of anything else?
Well,
or are we
that's
just
easy,
special
God,
pleading?
because God Himself has revealed.
No. You don't get to just
So
plug the plug
He
back into
instantiates and
itself. That's
imposes
not
intelligibility
Wrong.
itself as a reflection based on Himself.
Like there's a reason why I'm being a little bit like sticky with it, but like this is the fine tuning argument. It's almost identical in a different.
Well,
You're just using a different
pleading.
word.
It's also just it's somewhere between that and like the kalam too, because you're just special pleading that intelligibility proves that things exist, or vice versa, however you want to word that correctly, thus God. But then you won't apply that same standard to the God claim, which is just
No,
why not?
I did apply it to God. I did apply it to God. You asked me a question with regards to what
What's
is it
the
that
explanation?
that imposes the intelligibility with regard to God. Did you not hear my answer?
No, so I'll ask again, I guess, so we can get really clear. What is the explanation for the intelligibility of God?
Yeah, God is the explanation, because God is the ultimate grounding for all states of affairs. So with regards
how
to
do you know that?
because He is the
How
mind.
do you know that?
Right, because
How do you know that?
Because it takes a mind with regards to intelligibility. Again, intelligibility is an abstract. Okay? It's not a concrete thing. You can't show anyone intelligibility.
I understand
you can define
that
it,
part.
but you
I'm
can't show it.
asking
You
how
can't
God
present. You can't
is...
wrap it up in a gift and present it to anyone.
You're
So
not
the
answering
thing
my
is,
question.
since it's a hold on, I'm answering it right now. If you stop interrupting me. So the thing is, with intelligibility, since it's an abstract, that means that it is from a mind. So God is that mind. Therefore, God is the one that instantiates and imposes all intelligibility itself, even with regards to Himself.
He isn't mind.
Let me add something.
He's a mind. Yeah, no, you go ahead.
I have something to say to that. But also, if I interrupt you, it's because I need you to clarify something, or because something isn't making sense.
But that's what I was doing. I was clarifying it
and now you're interrupting
while you were
in the middle of
interrupting me.
my
I was
sentence,
attempting
and
to
I will
clarify
mute you. Cool. So you're muted. That's annoying.
It sucks that we have to do that.
I know, and now I'm trying
to hung up.
Oh, here hung up. Okay. Yeah, because you can't say God is that is just special pleading. So God created itself, which is where you'd have to go with that. In which case, why couldn't the universe have just created itself, and it doesn't require some other explanation for its intelligibility? Absolutely ridiculous. Super annoying argument.
I was going to bring up that like he's not the mind, he's a mind. There's a different God that gave him the intelligibility, and that God is actually the first one. I wanted to just see if there was any
how far back do we want to go? Yeah.
Right. If like he's actually thought about it. But it turns out we're never going to learn because the guy doesn't fucking want to be talked over by a lady. So like who knows? Oh
that
man.
happens a lot.
We've got
that would have been fun to like finish up and wrap up that conversation, but sorry for hosting on the show where I'm supposed to host.
You're a host. Oh man.
Okay.
We've got let's talk to see this is another one. I don't understand the name, but we're gonna go for it. This is Darkly Your. That's what it says. I don't know what that means or how to do I call you Darkly? What is it? What is
I can't
that?
say shit because my name is Promise. So
that's fine. But this sounds like a screen name, and I don't understand. But this person, it doesn't say atheist or theist. It just says practitioner, and I don't know what that means. Pronouns they them. Calling in from Interesting Nebula. Cool. It says several of the line hosts, Jimmy and Forrest, have made disparaging comments about alternative practices like tarot and such. I want to give some evidence and argument to the issue. Let's hear what they have to say. Darkly, you're on the line with Forrest and Promise. How you doing? If your phone is asleep, we can't hear you. So please tap your phone, make sure it's awake.
Darkly, you might need to go tap on your browser if you're calling in from the browser. But maybe we might need to put them on hold until they figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, well, Darkly, we're going to give you 2 more seconds, and I'm going to go ahead and return you to the queue. You're not being hung up on. We're just going to put you back in the queue. We're going to talk to somebody else. We'll come back to you in a minute, and hopefully your phone works. We'll see. Instead, we're going to talk to Amy, pronoun she, her, calling in from Ornery Horses, who's a theist who says my logical reasoning does not allow me to have faith and belief. What? My logical reasoning does not allow me to have faith and believe, even though I think God exists or want him to. I live in constant guilt for not allowing myself to have faith because of the hypocrisy of it all. That's a hell of a thing to call in
I think
about.
I think I need some explanation for this.
You're on the line. What's going on?
Hi.
Hey.
So I was born and raised super Catholic because of my grandmother. So I've always had this overwhelming sense of, I don't know if it's duty to believe in God, but also, I guess, trauma. So then I started going to Christian church because I felt like it was so much less intense. But probably in the last 5 years, I have found myself in a situation where even when I go to church, it's become very political. And I've always believed in a separation from church from state. But then I started to realize I have all these traumas that I have, and no disrespect for anybody you spoke to earlier, but because of people like Dr. Trevor and the person you talked to after, where my questions are never answered. There's no validity to my questions. Like, hey, I don't understand. If this, why this?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was told when I was 8, I can sin in thought. So I grew up panicked. I'm going to go to hell. Because if I think about doing something wrong, I'm going to go to hell. So I would go to confession and confess like, oh, I thought about this. I was a teenage girl. You know, you think about sex. You think about all those things. So it's, I don't know. I guess I had more questions coming into, and then I heard Dr. Trevor speak, but then I understand why I have a hard time believing now. But it's also heartbreaking.
Yeah. What, Amy, can I ask, do you currently believe in the existence of a God?
I think I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion.
I get that.
Yeah.
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 Or
so
not God,
3 things.
something, science.
Yeah.
My grandmother was Japanese
like
on my other side. Yeah, so I grew up super Catholic from my mom's side, but my other grandmother was a Shinto. So she hugged trees. Yeah, she would hug trees, and she loved gardening, and she believed in energy is always, restored, and we all have a purpose in it, in the world, to protect the world.
I grew up pagan, and it was a lot like that. Yeah. Three things I think are really important here. Number one, at the beginning of this call, you totally said duty. Number two is that like the things that you described here are these everlasting thought stoppers telling you not to think and not to allow yourself to question. It's a very fascistic kind of mentality and morality, and that fucking sucks. It's why when we talk to people who are talking about why beliefs like these propagate, the thing that I always bring up is abuse, because that's absolutely what that is. Telling a child that they are going to be hurt very badly, and if they think too hard, that's the best way to guarantee they'll be hurt very badly. That's a fucking horrific and monstrous thing to tell a kid. And so for you to go through that, I trust me, you're in very good company on this channel, and like you've got a lot of people here who have been through that as well and have survived, and you can survive too. The thing that it sounds like where you're at now, the third thing, where it sounds like you're at now is this kind of like Spinoza's God, where you're saying that there's something there and it just looks like the universe the way that it is. And you can blend it into these cultural traditions you have, into whatever belief system you don't have that makes sense to you, whatever sense you can make of the world. It all blends together in these ways. And that's a way that you can kind of scapegoat and get around where you're like, well, I still believe in something, so I still feel comfortable and safe, but I don't have to go along with all the bullshit. That is a very natural step, a very natural progression. And I hope that while you're in that spot, because this is a great place to do it from, start probing, if this God is real, what kind of God is it? And is that God worth your time, worth your worship, worth any kind of dignity or respect whatsoever? And if not, is that a God worth believing in? And once you get past that, then you can start asking yourself, do I actually believe this? Is there actual evidence for this? Is there a reason for me to be going through this and dedicating so much of my life and my stress and my anger and my anxiety and my anguish and my problems that I am generating towards this thing, this monster that I've been taught about since a kid? Or do I want to take a second and just peek under the bed and see that there's actually nothing there and that you can live your life and be whatever the hell you want to be? That's where I think you should be going from here. That's just my thought.
Yeah, that makes
Amy,
a lot of sense.
do you mind if I chime in for a second too?
Please.
No, absolutely. I'm here because I follow you.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks. I know we're throwing a lot at you. First, I just want to validate where you're at right now. Other than the Catholic part, because I was raised more evangelical, your story is so similar to mine, down to the part where, if someone had asked me at the point where it sounds like you're at, do you believe in a God or not? I was like, I don't believe in religion, but maybe a God. But then in that same sentence, I went on to be like, but I think it's probably just something we already know what it is. And I'm just using this word to describe it that way because it brings me comfort, because that's how my brain has filtered the world my entire life. And that it's a really, really difficult place to be. And I just want to say first that I'm so proud of you, the courage that takes, especially when you do have the weight of family and all of that. And when you have this fear and anxiety that's been, woven into your brain. It's extremely brave that you're letting yourself be honest with yourself, much less calling us. And I really appreciate you trusting us with this phone call and talking to us. I'll just throw a few, I don't know exactly what you're asking for, but I'm throwing it out there anyways. Here's a few things that really helped me at this point. I prioritized therapy. Religious trauma is really a thing. And it was very helpful to find somebody that specialized in that. In fact, my therapist for a while was a Christian. She's only not my therapist anymore because I don't live in that state, but she was amazing. And even when I was already an atheist, like still an incredible therapist, and helped me figure out that I had multiple versions of OCD, and one of which was this, I think it's called moral scrupulosity or something like that, which is basically like religious OCD, where I found myself needing to pray at certain times, where I found myself terrified to think certain things because that meant I was going to go to hell, lots of stuff like that. So I'm saying that to let you know how normal you are. It's so normal that your brain responded and reacted in the ways that it did to what it was given. So the fact that you've come this far, you should be super encouraged. It gets so much better from where you're at right now. that's the other thing I was going to tell you about is Recovering from Religion. If you haven't heard of them, they have amazing resources, one of which is the Secular Therapy Project. So they can help you find a therapist if that's something you're interested in. They also have a hotline where you can specifically talk to people about fear of hell. Because even once you logically are able to come to terms with like, okay, we have no good reason to believe that any hell or afterlife exists, that fear can still live in your body and you still have to address it. And there's nothing wrong with you for that. That's so part of this journey, unfortunately. That was a long ramble. I hope any of that made sense or helped at all. Amy?
We can't hear you if your phone's asleep.
Oh, yeah, maybe your phone fell asleep. You just got to tap the screen.
Oh, it was my phone.
There you are. Okay. I was dang it, none of that
everything you guys
helped.
are saying makes sense. I studied physics, so that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, it's always been like cause and effect. There's theories, there's things you can prove, and I think the only thing that I've ever seen religion proof is that I see how happy people can be in religion, but I was never that person. Like, I've never been happy in religion. I've never been happy to be at church and believe. I've always wondered, like, if a child gets sick and they get better, oh, God did this for us. It was by God's grace. But if the child dies, oh, heaven wanted him. God needed him more. It was those kind of things. Or, I don't know, if Jesus died for our sins, why do we hate gay people and everything else that we don't agree with? Because he already died for everybody's sins. So why are we, I don't know what the word is hateful or things like that, or why they ask people to pay tithers like 10% of your wage, but then you might not be able to buy diapers or formula for your baby. And I've seen all of these things, like people setting money aside first thing with their paychecks and then literally not having gas to finish the week and go to work. Like, I feel, I guess the biggest question is if God really did exist for me, it's like, why would he do all these bad things and create all these bad things? Because he would have the power.
Yeah.
If you're a good person.
It's called the problem of evil for a reason. It's a really big problem that I have never heard appropriately addressed. And that's a similar place to where I started in a lot of my journey with questioning. And then I came up with a bunch of other questions, and I think you'll get to that point too. But that's a really important place to start because you're connecting with humanity. You're like, hey, I'm a human and I can look and see that this is shitty and that if I were God, this would not be how things go. And if you can already figure that out, then how much more should an all-powerful, supposedly all-loving being be able to offer some kind of solutions for that and not at random? Like you said, there's people who are like, oh, my kid had their broken leg healed 3 weeks faster than it was supposed to. And then somebody else loses their child to an accident. And it's like, so what? God was willing to help a bone grow back faster, but not protect an innocent child in an accident. There's all kinds of things like that. I'm just saying what you're saying, basically, just validating where you're at. And I think those are all great questions. And like you said, I grew up also hearing people like Dr. Trevor completely unable to actually answer my questions, but I settled with their circle backs. I was just like, oh, okay, back to here. And then I wasn't able to engage my brain enough to continue and press forward with the questioning. So it sounds like that's where you're at, is that you're now eager to hear, no, really, what's the answer?
Yeah. But I think, I think you guys answered a lot, gave me validation about a lot of my feelings.
Good. Well, please call back anytime. Appreciate you calling. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about before we let you go?
No, that was it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Amy.
Appreciate you, Amy. Take care.
Bye. Aw.
That's awesome.
I'm so happy for people like that. And so I just want to be there and offer a hug and be like, I know it's like waking up in this world that you did not know you were ever going to wake up in. And when you don't have the tools immediately, it's very daunting. However,
yeah, seriously. And I'm so happy that we have a community, that can be here for that. That's so cool. We two things really quick before we move on. we decided we had lines closed because we've been doing this for a little while. I put in the producer chat over here that I'd be willing to stay up for like one more good theist call. So Stephanie Helms,
one more, or the first one of the night.
Right. We'll see. Stephanie Helms is our call screen tonight. Big shout out to her. Thank you so much for being
Stephanie.
awesome. We appreciate you sticking out and making this work. In the meantime, while we're waiting on one more theist calls only, no atheists, the atheists, or especially goddamn FBI guy. That's all I want.
FBI guy, or like I'm gonna say true theist and do the like no true Scotsman fallacy, but a theist that has some evidence for us or has a good reason for why Forrest and I should believe what they believe.
Yes. If anybody's still on Instagram, tell that dude we've got one line open just for him or anybody else who is willing to call in and tell us why they believe in a God. But let's talk in the meantime, we'll talk to Charlie, known to preferred pronouns, calling in from Nimble Children, who is an atheist who's been waiting for like 2 hours, wants to know what was the straw that broke the camel's back for your belief in the supernatural. Let's talk to Charlie really quick. Charlie, you're on the line with Forrest and Promise. How you doing?
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hey, Charlie.
I can hear you just fine.
Yes.
Okay. So I've been a big fan of Forrest for a long time, and I just found out about Promise, and I'm loving her so far.
Thanks, Charlie.
Promise is way cooler than me.
No.
Before we get into the main question, I do have a question for Forrest. Why do you pronounce it hyperbole?
Because I'm very stupid, Charlie. I don't know what you want from me. It's just been a habit that I've been doing for so long. I also say conversation instead of conversation, and people get mad about that.
Do you really say it that way? Like on purpose?
Yeah, like
I thought you were doing it as a joke.
We're having a conversation right now. Oh yeah, I'm having you're talking in hyperbole here. You're talking all these hyperboles, and it's like I put the hyper in there instead of hyper. I don't know. It's just a habit. It's a bad habit, and not being shamed for it
really
on the
purple.
fucking image.
I'm not shaming you. I actually love it. I just wanted to know why.
No, I'm just very dumb, Charlie, is what it is. That's all. I'm working on it. I'm working on it, except that I'm not at all.
I think we need a purple
I love
mug
it.
that says hyperbole.
Yeah. I mean, it's everyone should agree that is the correct way to say it. It's like niche and niche, only it's like niche and orange. It's so stupid. So you were asking what was the straw that broke the camel's back. I bet Promises is way cooler than mine.
I don't have one.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll let you ask the question in your own words.
From Forrest on this. So the question is, like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Like the last step for like what broke your faith?
Oh, so faith in general or the supernatural? I mean, for me, it all happened at once. So I guess same answer. There wasn't really like a straw that broke the camel's back. I think it was just years and years and years of all these questions building up and things not being answered properly, and me kind of just accepting that and choosing to follow God and, continuing to do my part. I thought that I just needed to be faithful. And if you want to say there was a straw, we can blame Trump, because that's the time period, 2016, when I was going to ministry school, when I was really like doing everything I could to know everything I possibly could about God and the Bible. And that was because I was watching how Christian leaders and people I really looked up to and respected and felt I had, trusted to be, messengers from God and all of that, were basically worshiping one of the most immoral, awful people possible. And as far as, presidential candidates go. And that was so upsetting to me. And, I had like a moment where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to let this shake my faith, because people are going to be people. And I don't want to, be disappointed in God or move away from God just because a bunch of religious leaders are, in my opinion, checking out of reality right now. And so it was through that process of me kind of doubling down and wanting to get closer to God that all these questions came up. And I thought, well, the truth shouldn't be afraid of questions, so I should ask all the questions. And here I am. So that was kind of a long answer for you, but
I love that.
That's it.
That's great.
For me, it was I started applying the same rules of logic and morality to my beliefs that I did to literally everything else. The beliefs that my family taught me, and they just kind of fell apart. And the more I poked, the more it fell apart until I found things that I could poke at that didn't fall apart, and that's science. And so I just kind of stayed there. And I quickly became an anti-theist after I kind of started asking, like I said, the more moral questions about like, okay, because there was a long time where I was like, okay, I'm an atheist, but like I'm a nice one, and everybody can be whatever they want to be, and all these religions are beautiful flowers in the same garden. And then I realized that the flowers were actually just rotting meat, and it wasn't good for me, and I wasn't into it. You know what I mean? So yeah, just thinking. The answer is thinking too much, probably too much.
Yeah. Why I asked the question this way is kind of because I have a straw that broke the camel's back, and it's partially related to Forrest, actually.
Oh fuck! I'm sorry.
Was Forrest the straw?
If that motherfucker exists, there's no God.
Broke.
That's it.
Was it a forest that broke the camel's back?
A bit, yeah. Because I was kind of forced into going to Christian school as a teenager, and it was. I remember it was some video where Forrest was talking about how like being gay is completely fine, and I just referencing that with like what my school pastors were talking about. I don't even want to call them teachers because they weren't teaching shit. So I just cross-referencing like the science that Forrest taught and the like accepting yourself that he taught with what my teachers were telling me kind of did it for me.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Love to hear it.
I am honored and flattered. There are way better science teachers than me, and there's way more cool resources out there. And I hope that you keep digging, and I hope you keep learning, because this universe is fucking awesome. And the more you dig into it, the more cool stuff there is to learn.
I've got that. I can't stop picking at things. I love asking questions.
I love that. That's fantastic.
That's so cool. Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Charlie.
I really appreciate you waiting for so fucking long to talk to us and have it, because like this is one of those really cool things. Like a lot of people who are on the fence right now are going to hear this kind of conversation, and it's going to help them a lot, because they're going to feel not so alone. They're going to feel safe. They're going to feel heard. And they're probably going to relate to something that the three of us have said and be like, yeah. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you hanging out and waiting for so long and sticking around and being here with us. But if there's anything else, if there isn't anything else, we'll jump on to our last call of the evening.
That looks like it. I kind of wrote out a couple notes, but we kind of covered it.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Charlie. And thanks for being prepped for the call. I love that.
Most
Have
definitely.
a great
Thanks
one.
for having me.
Bye,
See you
Charlie.
later. Bye-bye.
Oh, so sweet. If I had seen if I had TikTok when I was being homeschooled, my Christian education, and your stuff had popped up, I would be like, shit. Stuff would fall apart.
This man's the devil.
So much faster.
This man's the devil.
I would be maybe, but then I think it's that I wasn't exposed to it. Was as soon as, like you said, as soon as I was able to start thinking and get other information.
Yep.
But the only science, I say that very loosely, that I was being offered was like Kent Hovind, and I was being told that dinosaurs aren't real. So if I had somebody offering up information also in 30 to 60 second videos, like some of your TikToks are, I'd be like, all of this is falling apart. So it's really cool to hear from somebody that that's happening to in real time.
Well, that's an incredibly kind thing to say, and it's really sweet, and that is what I'm hoping for. And I don't think that I'm as cool as you do, but that's very cool of you to say. We've got, man, I don't know why my throat keeps like I'm not like burping. It's just like it's a little.
It's like doing the thing.
It's just not one to participate. My glottis is not in the game. We've got one more call left on the line. Like I said, we opened it up for any theist who wants to call it, and we got somebody, Jesse. It just in the pronoun section, it just says a man, and I don't know what tone to read that in. I don't know if that is this person clarifying that they're a guy.
It sounds like they don't know what pronouns are, because a man is not
that's the thing.
Pronoun. So I don't
know if Jesse is saying like, I don't fuck with all this pronoun stuff. I'm a man, and you should know what I mean. Or if, Jesse is an ambiguous name. Jesse could go either way. So maybe they're saying, oh, Jesse, but I'm a dude, just, and that's actually them being nice. I don't know which way it's going. The point is, we're going to find out. And the call screen says, he talked to me on Instagram and wants to talk about evolution. This might've been one of the people I was talking about at the beginning of the show. That sounds awesome.
This is exciting.
Either way, let's find out how it's going to go. Jesse, you're on the line for some promise. How are you doing today?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Can you clear it up for us? What do you mean by a man in the pronoun section? Is that you being angry about pronouns, or is that you just clarifying, or like what is that?
Yeah, that's me saying I don't believe in all that pronoun stuff, but also you did make a good point. Jesse could be a man or a woman name, so.
And we're on a call show, so we can't even sit, like, we have hardly any cues to go off, and it's just our way of being respectful to the person on the other line to try to call them what they want to be called. And do you see how it would be really helpful for us to have that information? So like when we were just introing your call, we could have said, he's calling in from blah, 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 but we didn't know what you wanted to go by. So then we have to be like really ambiguous with it like you were. So it's really not a gotcha like you think it is. It's like a practical tool that's really helpful and helps everyone. And the added bonus is that sometimes it makes some people extra comfortable because they get to use pronouns that are affirming to them.
True.
No, that makes sense. And I just feel comfortable not doing pronouns, but I get through a call, you want to know if it's a guy or girl or how to address them.
I just want to point out, you just used one. You said, I don't feel comfortable with pronouns. That I is a pronoun. So you should have said Jesse doesn't feel that Jesse needs to do pronouns. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but I think it's implied that
they're a part of speech.
I don't mess with the whole LGBT, this guy is a woman because I'm like, that's a guy.
So you can just say, so you're transphobic. You don't like trans people, and you don't believe that.
You're saying I'm transphobic. I just say
that is what that is.
I don't believe in that ideology.
Jesse, you made a big deal out of nothing like this. We didn't even need to talk about any of this. You wouldn't have to talk about the LGBT if you had just been able to let us know what you want us to refer you to on the call so we can be polite to you. It's really silly that you're protesting something that didn't need a protest at all. And it's making you look sensitive to a group of people that had nothing to do with us needing to know how to address you on this call. We did that for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought you guys asked me, so I was just telling you why.
Okay. Well,
let's hear the rest.
It says you want to talk about evolution. We'll probably come back to talking about sex and gender because it tends to be that way with science deniers. It always loops back around, but we'll see what happens. We'll see. What issues do you have with evolution? I don't know which person you're talking to. When you say you talk to me on Instagram, that happens a lot. So like, refresh my memory. What about evolution are we having a discussion about?
Also, can I just chime in really quickly? Jesse, I would like to know so that like when we're talking in the chat and stuff, we know. So you're saying you don't mess with pronouns. So does that mean you're okay with being referred to as her? Like, can we do that? Because I want to clarify it for people in the chat if you have a preference for which pronoun we use.
No, I think when I said like I don't mess with pronouns, I think it's pretty easy to understand what I mean.
No, I'm asking you right now for
that's being pushed on people.
I'm asking you for just practical reasons right now. I'm asking, do you have a preference so I can let the chat know? Do you prefer he or she, or what do you prefer so we can know? Because your name is Jesse.
How do we refer to a man?
however they would
I'm just
like.
asking how you want to be, what you want to be called, and then I can put that down. If you don't care and you don't want to answer, then I'll just let people call you whatever in the chat, and that's cool too, because you don't care and you have no preference.
You can use the pronouns that have historically been used for a man.
Which are?
It's bizarre.
In which language?
In
which language?
Hey.
In which language?
English, Spanish, it don't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
it's
so you prefer he, him. Got it. I'll let them know that you prefer he, him.
The dumbest, most circuitous way to just say you prefer he, him pronouns. Just because you refuse to muddy your hands with all of this parts of speech. It's weird hill to die on, Jesse. Very strange way to start this show. So
I'm not.
You said you have some issues with evolution.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, yes.
What's your evolution? What's your evolution question? What's going on with it? What don't you understand?
Oh, nothing. I think I came across one of your videos about evolution, or creationism being taught in schools or something like that. So I brought up Dr. Stephen Meyer, and I think you referred to him like as a grifter. And yes.
So and we talked about intelligent design, and that intelligent design is not a theory. By the way, I'm having you can listen to the call if you like. You're coming through real choppy for me. It says you're on the web caller. I don't know if it's an issue with your mic or if you have us on speakerphone or what, but it's coming through really choppy. Maybe you just have a bad signal. I'm not sure. But yes, no, I said that intelligent design is not a theory, because a theory is something that is backed by evidence. Evolution is a theory, and that's something that we can actually count on. It is the most robust theory in the history of biology. It is, in fact, the central glue that holds all of biology together. Nothing in biology makes sense without evolution. So you've got a couple of people, one of whom is not a scientist, as far as I know, who runs a pseudoscience organization with a stated purpose of establishing theocracy. And you've got another guy, Dr. Tour, who uses incredulity as a vehicle to say that intelligent design may or may not be a thing, and is at staunch odds against not only most of the people in his own discipline, but in all of biology in general, going against all of the evidence that everybody else has. And in both cases, you have people who are proposing something that is not a theory. They're not offering evidence of their own. They have no positive evidence of any kind of a God, because intelligent design is the exact same thing as creationism, which is the exact same thing as just having a religious belief. It's not science. It's just saying, I don't know, therefore magic. That is why I said the things that I said on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know earlier you brought up that, for example, one of the alternatives to a God was a simulation. Wouldn't a simulation also be a part of intelligent design?
In that particular case, yeah, but I was bringing that up as an example of why that one particular caller was being silly by saying, I don't know about the Big Bang, so the only possible explanation is the Christian God specifically. And that is what happens with intelligent design proponents, especially people like Stephen Meyer. You'll notice Stephen Meyer talks about how this isn't a religious claim, it's just a scientific claim to say that there's this and that seems to be designed, so therefore there must be a designer. And then immediately following that will say the Bible is the truth. Same thing with Answers in Genesis. They do the same thing all the time. It's not just DNA looks a lot like a code, so there must be a coder. That's a bad argument on its own. But then they always follow it up with, and I know who the coder is, and his name is Jehovah, and he doesn't want you having butt sex. And that's a lot of extra baggage that doesn't need to be there. And again, most important for all of this, they never, ever provide any actual evidence for that. All they do is try to poke holes in real science and say, I don't believe this actual science. Therefore, the only other possible explanation is my preferred version of my preferred translation of my preferred edition of my preferred interpretation of my preferred holy book. That's not how thinking works.
Okay. So, would you say that so you're basically trying to say or conflate intelligent design with creationism?
Tell me the difference. I'm not conflating them. I'm saying there is no difference. If you have a difference, let me know.
Well, would the simulation theory be the same as creationism?
Strictly speaking, kind of, but like certainly not in the way that anybody would actually use those words.
Well, some people do think we might be in a simulation. So all I'm trying to say is
right. I'm saying that strictly speaking, yeah, you could use that way. That's not how I would never expect anybody to put those two terms together. But yeah, strictly speaking, a simulation is just another way of thinking about a universe that is constructed by some being. In this case, we would call it a god in creationism. In a simulation, it would just be whoever designed the simulation thing. They're functionally the same claim. They have the same amount of evidence going for them, and they're equally unfalsifiable nonsense based on the way that they're presented.
Okay. So you think that intelligent design is nonsense? It's nonsensical and it's illogical.
It is the absence of logic.
Tell me the story? Okay, so you tell me the sensical story of how everything came to be.
Everything? Do you mean the entire universe?
Well, since science has it figured out, right?
So
let's start.
You were listening to one of these other calls.
How life was even. Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll start with abiogenesis. If you were listening to one of these other calls, you would have heard me talk a lot about this. I'm going to summarize because I've already done it in the show. Nobody wants to hear this so much times. Promise is sitting here listening to me ramble. I feel bad for her. But there's a lot that we do and don't know about how life got started on this planet. We don't know exactly when it was, but we know for sure that life got started at the absolute latest by about 3.8 billion years ago. We know that there are four major macromolecules that make up life: proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. Those four major macromolecules are made of individual monomers. And we find that every single one of those monomers self-assembles. They form all by themselves, natural, normal conditions. We know how most of them do it, although we don't have all the details for all of it yet. We also know how they polymerize, how they become those major macromolecules. Again, there's a few things we don't know for sure yet, but we do know how a few of them do it and how like a couple of the processes. When it comes to nucleic acids in particular, they form something called RNA. RNA not only is genetic material, it also catalyzes a lot of biochemical reactions, and it self-replicates. And we've seen all of this in a lab. These are all totally natural, normal things that happen under mundane conditions. We also know where the things that make the things that make the things that make life come from. We understand stellar nucleosynthesis and how those atoms are made, and we understand how basic and organic compounds form, on their own as well. They're abundant all over the universe, and even if we didn't know how they form, the fact that they're so abundant in the universe tells us quite a bit. Same thing as when we talk about like amino acids or nucleic acids. We find them in space all the time. Even if we don't know how they form, absolutely we know that they self-assemble. So as far as where life comes from, we don't know everything yet. We know a shitload more than we did 10 years ago. We know way more than we knew 100 years ago. We're going to know a lot more in 20 more years. What we know for sure is that all the stuff that makes life is naturally created. It comes about all on its own. It naturally self-assembles all on its own. We just don't know quite how it starts being alive yet. But we also know that life coming from non-life isn't that crazy of a thing, because life comes from non-life literally all the time. Every time you take in non-living material into your body uses it for your metabolism and incorporates it into your own material, into your own body. Even things that were never alive, like salt or water, you take them into your body uses them to make life. Life is dependent on these non-living things. Life comes from non-life every second of every day. So that's the long and short of it, Jesse.
Yeah.
Where does God fit into all of that?
You basically told me. So you're telling me that we've observed how it works, but you still said you don't know how it happened. You're just filling the gaps with saying, well, it must have happened this way. But nobody has observed. Okay, what did you say then? Because you're telling me that you observed molecules form themselves, but what's guiding them? What's the principle behind this?
The laws of chemistry.
And who made the laws of chemistry?
Nobody.
They just exist.
Also,
that's kind of crazy to me.
Also, why do you assume it's a who? Why isn't it a what? or why isn't it just there?
Sure. What made the laws of chemistry?
Because what you're coming up on is something very close to the same damn Kalam cosmological argument knockoff that we've had 4 times on this show so far, which is that
sure, but
here's this
at the end of the day, you got 2 options. You're saying the universe created itself and it's in a circle, or God created and he's in a circle. Either way, it comes down to these 2 options.
Nope. I think if you actually listen to Forrest, then you would be able to understand what he's saying better.
Yeah,
he's
that's
saying
the biggest
that
thing.
we
I didn't say
witnessed
that
this
at
and
all.
this. Okay. All right, Forrest. So where did the universe come from? And what created that? And what created that? And what created the rules that guided the formation of these things, these cause and effect?
Yep. I don't know. And neither do you.
Okay.
Do you want to ask me?
And I hope to find out
Okay. So,
I want to ask her.
Though. Hold on. You said you don't know, and neither do I.
He doesn't want to ask you.
But you're ridiculing.
He doesn't want to ask you.
All right, I'll ask you right now, but I just don't want to lose my point. You make God seem like he's a ridiculous idea, even though we're both on the same boat. You won't even give people
No, Jesse, let's
respect.
be really clear about something. Saying I don't know is not ridiculous when in fact you do not know. That's just being honest. Saying, oh, it's a God and it's this God and it's all these things and I know all these things. Did we just lose the call?
It looks like either he had a really bad connection. So I don't know if he hung up because he was frustrated or if he...
Or it's because he had to listen to me talk finally.
Yeah, no, not a woman. Jesse doesn't know what a woman is.
I guess we lost Jesse, which is a shame. I thought we were going to get a really compelling argument from somebody who started this whole thing off with saying, I don't mess with those LGBT.
Those LGBT.
Like,
I'm frustrated by the fact that he talked about God and used he/him pronouns.
Yeah. Well, we tried. We tried so hard tonight to talk to a theist and get some answers. This might be some of the... Like, I feel like some of the other calls or some of the other shows we've done together, we've had some maybe crazier conversations, but these were the most consistently crazy. Like, every single one of them just kind of went pretty poorly with the theists. I mean, we had some great talks with some new atheists, or almost atheists maybe, but disappointing. And no FBI guy.
No FBI guy. Although FBI guy, I just checked, is doing the exact thing that we said he would do. He is, rather than calling in, commenting to other people, you should ask him about this, and you should ask him about this, and you should you could do it. You could call in. You could. I want to talk about it, but I can't because
next
the
time.
man's maybe the problem isn't actually, maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's that his fingers are as floppy as his spine, and so he just can't make it work. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the issue.
True.
Who knows?
Hot dog fingers.
Who knows? Hot dog fingers. Awful.
Oh man.
It's been a show, and you watched it. So
Thank
that's
you all.
it's at a little point you have to take some responsibility for the fact that this channel exists. Sorry for all of it, but that's it. Promise, I fucking love hosting with you, and we should do it some more. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our mods. Thank you to our call screener. Thank you to our producer, Arden. Thank you to Fire Halo. Thank you to our chatters.
Yes.
Thank you to our viewers. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our channel members. And thank you for whatever you did today. Good on you.
The pronouns historically associated with being a